Commissioners, are we ready?
Y'all ready? How many minutes we got on the people line?
Say again, sir?
What's the question, Mr. Chairman?
We didn't, 3 minutes. No, I was,
Oh, yeah, the minutes, three of them.
For public comment, yeah, I did the regular agenda stuff. I'll let you know how many people are on, and then you can decide if you want.
all ready?
Give me 1 second, sir.
Thing read. Oh, on me. Yours on
And
me?
that's your own. That's your conference mic, and that's the mic for the live feed and the PA.
Thank you, I got it.
Michael, this supposed to be read?
I didn't even see it.
Yes, because you're muted. I'm gonna unmute you now. You ready?
I'm ready when y'all do.
Okay, you're unmuted.
Franklin County Board of County Commissioners 9th session. Next on the agenda will be declared and prayer and pledge. Oh, Heavenly Father, we gather here this morning to take care of the business of Franklin County. Lord, we living in bad times now. We got a pandemic out there, and it's all over the world. We're asking you to guide the scientists, help them out. We're asking you to pray for the world, and send a special blessing to Franklin County. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning. Next on the agenda will be approval of the minutes.
So moved. Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Masters, second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous. Next on the agenda will be payment of the county bills.
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Massey,
Second.
second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion on that?
Q&A session has started.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous. Next on the agenda will be public comment.
All right, Commissioner.
I got something I want to say first.
Go ahead.
On this virus we got, our people fought for our freedom, and I think they tried to take our freedom from us. Because in 1917, there were 22 million people died of the virus. 70, 68, 69, the herpes and the killed millions of people. They never shut the country down. I think if the governor don't want to open Franklin County up, I want to make a motion for us to open it up.
Let me ask, Commissioner, are you referring to the vacation rentals?
Vacation rentals and get the county back and going.
All right, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
So, Commissioner, the issue with that is that the county did not close the vacation rentals. No matter what you might hear, what you might read, social media, wherever, we didn't do it. The state did it under their agency of Department of Business and Professional Regulations. That who basically is who oversees the vacation rentals. So, and if I may explain on Friday, I'll explain again. So on Friday, a lot of people saw the governor's conference, and in the conference, he basically stated that he will open this window of opportunity if each county submits a plan of how they would not regulate, how the county plans to open up, how their vacation rentals will operate, you know, sanitizing, who they would rent to. As a matter of fact, the governor was very clear. He stated in his conference that if in the plan it does not state that you will not rent to international visitors or visitors I don't say locally, visitors across the country that are in known hotspots, that he would not approve your plan. So our plan includes that language. And as I speak to the plan, you know, I started off in our plan, then I started to contact other counties, and I realized that other counties are kind of we're doing the same plan. So I joined the team. So basically, us, Gulf, Bay, a few other counties to the west, basically has the same plan in the same format with the same information. My intention of that is so the governor realizes it's a regional effort. We're all asking him to do this in the same manner. So, you know, if he didn't like something in one plan, basically he wouldn't like it at all, and we would all fix it. So, where it is right now, we are waiting we submitted our plan on Friday, along with other counties. It went to Secretary Bashir's, who runs that department. From what I understand, he looked over all the plans, gave his stamp of approval, then turned them over to the governor's office for the governor's approval. So as far as I know, right now, it's on the governor's desk waiting to be approved. Last night, there was a link, an email sent to me, and there's a link that shows, and I hope everybody doesn't rush to that website right now. DBPR has a website that they will state each county and the actual status, where the county is with opening, where they are in reviewing the plan. Hopefully, they will start to populate that website this morning. Now, I found out from your TDC administrator that the TDCs have a conference call, and Secretary Halsey Bashir is slated to be on that agenda and to explain to the TDC directors, administrators, how he would like it opened, you know, and I guess he'll review the plans and explain to everybody what the state is looking for, under what conditions he's allowed to stay open. I guess under what conditions that if something happens, they will close it back down again. So I have asked Mr. Solomon that as he gets off of that call, if we're still in session, let me know. We'll call him, or we'll tell him to come on down here, and he could address the board and explain what he learned on that conference call. So again, I don't know how many ways we could say this. It is not, this opening of the short-term rental vacation, it is not a county commission decision. I thought the chairman did a job in explaining that the last time, but apparently that didn't work out too well. It is not our decision, it's the state's decision. We've done everything that the state has asked from us to allow us to open up, and we're just waiting for them. That's where we are, commissioners. I don't know if you have any other questions for me, and it would be good. I'm glad Commissioner Massey said something, because hopefully it will tailor some of the public comments that are here holding to speak, you know, that they don't come on there and say, why haven't you guys, it is not us, it is the state. Again, I'm repeating myself, but we've done every single thing that we possibly can to try and get the short-term rentals opened.
Well, see, what's happening is, and I'll say it again, when an executive order come out, we lose our power. We don't have no control. It goes to Tallahassee. Tallahassee is over us. When they set executive order, they take over. And then Washington can take over them with the executive order, I guess. But see what's happening, and the people, they don't see nobody but the county commissioner. They vote for that same governor up there as they vote for the county commissioner. They need to be shooting some letters up there or go talk to them. And put some pressure on them. Because they can pressure us all they want to, but it's not gonna move nothing. All we can do is what we did the other day, send a letter to them and ask them. If they might have threaded that, I don't know. But undoubtedly, until they get ready to do it, our hands are tied. Any more discussion on that?
Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Massey, I just want to tell you that I do empathize with what you're saying. I feel exactly what you just said. I have felt the pulse of many, many of our people, as I know all of us as commissioners in this room have felt, relative to opening up much of our geography here. I see it as a standard of practice. It protects the county by following superior guidelines from above. I have the hope and faith that these guidelines are set up to obey support, math, and science as we go forward. And truly, back in those years when there was other huge pandemics and many, many people died, the science was different then than it is today. And I think that we're looking at that issue as well. So I certainly do feel your passion, and I just say hang in there for a while, and we'll just continue to watch the state guidelines.
they getting a pretty good handle on this thing. I mean, they ain't got no cure for it,
No.
but they got to, they had to stop it to learn out, in order to trace and test and all that, they had to set it up. It wasn't set up. They ain't had nothing set up, so they had to get something in practice, in order. Okay, y'all, any more discussion? I feel you. They get you double too.
I mean, you guys must be getting 100 times more calls and emails that I'm getting. I mean, yesterday it was like that. Desk phone was ringing, I was on the cell phone, emails coming in, I switched to the desk phone, I mean, it's nonstop, but.
Well, see, the governor office got his and shut down. You can't talk to them, so they got to talk to somebody.
Do the best we
They
can.
take it out on us.
I just don't understand it. I mean, I can't, because you got people going to every store it is shopping. They go into Tallahassee shopping, Wakulla shopping, they go into IJ and Carabel, everybody's mingling like here. I mean, you can put rules on who you rent to at the hot spot, but people are hurting here in Franklin County. People are out of work. Some people that don't want it open, got a bunch of money, don't care, but, I mean, I hate it for them.
Yeah. One thing, we do not have a virus disease that originated in Franklin County. The two that gave us a bruise were imported from other areas. So within our geography, it seems like we're doing pretty good right now.
You sir, watch them in Washington DC having a meeting, the big ones that shut it down, they ain't got no protection on or nothing, all sitting around and got the country shut down and they sat there having a meeting. Just like we are.
Yeah.
They just trying to get a hold on America, see if they can shut us down and run us.
Understand.
All right, next on the agenda.
Commissioner Massey, you need to officially withdraw your motion.
Yeah,
Motion withdraw for not having a lack of second. Well, was there a second?
No.
I got the call for one.
That's fine. I think we're all right.
All right. Next on the agenda be public comment.
All right, so I have a few words here. First thing, we switched to, all the callers on the line will realize that we switched to a new calling system. It's cheaper. It's not free as it try to indicate that it's free, but it's not. It's cheaper. So we're using that. Now, what we did, and what I try to encourage everybody to do, which was on the agenda, my message on the agenda, is only people that wanted to participate here on public comments, that they use the call-in number of the phone system. Everyone else that wanted to view the meeting, we are live streaming. In fact, today's our first day. Thanks to Forgotten Coast Television. You can get that on the YouTube channel, Forgotten Coast TV, and it should open right up as you go to that YouTube channel. So right now we are actually live streaming, this meeting. So with the new system, we have a couple of new items. So now that you're in a system, I'm in a basically it's called Q&A section of the system, and so to raise your hand, I need you to hit *6, not *9, *6. Mr. Chairman, I have 24 callers, but you've got to give it a minute here to see how many people actually want to speak. As it stands right now, I have 2, but I'm reminding everyone, *6. Now, I also will say this now, even after public comments is over, I will probably let the phone conference ride for a while, but once there's no issues with the live stream, and Royce and I are knocking on wood, and that keeps running, I will disconnect the call conference system. Therefore, everybody will have to shift to the live stream, so that we're not incurring any more charges for something that we're duplicating, basically, the meeting, the streaming of the meeting.
We got 2.
I just had a third one, and again, everyone that's on the conference call, it's *6 if you'd like to speak, *6. Right now, I only have 3 in the queue, Commissioner.
We'll give them 3 minutes, since it's so low, and if it get over 10, we'll cut down.
Okay. So everyone, you have 3 minutes, so, and bear with me, this is brand new, so I'm using new software. So here we go. The first number in the queue is 407-496-0888. Hopefully if I hit this, it's supposed to unmute you, and unmute your phone.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
morning.
And I'm sorry, the number changed on me. So I have 518-859-0134. I don't know what happened there. But state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my name is George Bird. I am an owner of 948 East Pine Street, St. George Island. I've been preparing the property for construction since March 2019. I currently reside in a very rural area of upstate New York, not New York City. During April 2020, after consulting with state of Florida officials, I traveled to my parcel to prepare it for residential construction. I registered my arrival at a checkpoint off I-95 at the state line, where I completed a questionnaire and answered all questions concerning my stay. I was authorized to continue my trip to the property. After approximately 24 hours, I was escorted from my property by representatives of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. I was given the choice of jail or to stay at the Franklin Inn, Carabel, overnight. I chose the motel, and after staying one night, I returned to New York rather than quarantine for 14 days. In addition to the obvious inconvenience, I was charged over $990 for the one-night stay at Carabel Inn, or Franklin Inn, rather, in Carabel, called price gouging. I cannot work on or visit my property, yet I do get to pay taxes on it. I would ask the board to either accept the decision of state officials at the border or consider reducing property taxes for those out-of-state residents that cannot utilize the very property they own. Despite the unpleasant experience, I'd like to commend the members of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office for their professionalism while dealing with me. It was greatly appreciated. And just an alternative suggestion, the state of New York is enormous. If you look at it geographically, a very small portion of the city or a very small portion of the state is New York City. It includes the boroughs of Manhattan, the Bronx, Staten Island, and Brooklyn and Queens. The great majority of the COVID cases are from those 5 boroughs. Your governor, Governor DeSantis, distinguishes between New York City in his public comments and upstate New York. I would request that the board at least consider amending the stricter quarantine regulations that they've adopted to identify those 5 boroughs as being quarantined rather than an entire state. Once again, the great majority of all COVID cases in New York State are in those 5 boroughs, and any upstate cases is thanks to the brilliant consideration Governor Cuomo gave to ship COVID patients to upstate New York. I appreciate what you do. I can't wait to get down there. Your people are wonderful, and you do an amazing job. I've been following the commissioners' meetings, and God bless you for what you do. And that's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Commissioner, well, I'll move on to the next caller. We come back to that after public comments. Next.
Hello.
Yes, sir. State your name for the record. And
Hello.
you have 3 minutes.
Yeah. My name's Craig Rodriguez. I'm the one that's on, right?
You keeping up with it?
Yes, sir. You're on. I'm sorry. I didn't read your phone number.
Okay.
Yes, you're on.
You
All right.
ain't got to hold it up.
Okay. So, anyway, I agree with the last call. I think you guys have done a good job, difficult circumstance. Although I kind of agree with him on the second point, too. I agree on doing some kind of a...
Mr. Rodriguez, if you're calling, I'm sorry, I might have mispronounced your last name. If you're calling from a cell phone, you need to move to a better spot because half your conversation we're losing, sir.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay. So I was just going to say, I agree with the last caller, and I think y'all have done a very good job in a difficult circumstance, and all of us were put into this. And so I agree with that portion of this. What I wanted to say was, we've all abided by what you've asked. You know, we've stayed away from our properties. We've not been able to rent our properties. So I want to go ahead and start the conversation about some serious property tax reductions or expense reductions for these properties we've not been able to use or rent or make money out of or anything. You know, they're not valuable like they were before. And so I just want to start getting that on the agenda to talk about how we're going to drastically for all of us. And that's really the end of my comment. I really appreciate your time, and I hope everything.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's see if I figure this out. As it posts to the next number. Good morning. State your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Brenda Carlin. My husband and I live on St. George Island. And my question this morning is it possible to get a report from the county, possibly posted on the webpage or part of some focus on the amount of dollars that the county has for county purposes? I know there's the budget, but specifically to let the community know how much revenue, how much is being lost due to this virus shutdown, and so that the public can clearly see the impact economically to our county. And then secondly, I'd like to know, with the fact that tourism is such an important factor for the county, as well as the property taxes that are paid, in addition to the recommendations regarding the property tax, is there any plan to look at the county resources and either lay off people or adjust current expenses? And that's all I have to say. I say that's all I have to say, and then I go on and say something else. So sorry. I appreciate that the beaches were open, and I thank you for what you're doing. That's it. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. All right. So that is the last caller in the queue. Again, I'll say, if anybody else would like to speak, *6. Actually, Commissioner,
Nope. Next
Uh,
on the agenda will be
yep, it's empty. I don't see anyone else. So that's it.
Department Director report. Superintendent of Public Works, Mr. Howard Nabel. Come on down.
Good morning, Commissioners. How y'all doing?
I'm good.
It's been a while. I'm glad all y'all doing okay, and all of us at the road department, we've been being safe and sitting in different groups, you know, no pile of people together, so using plenty of hand sanitizer and spray and bleach and all that, but everybody's doing good. And other than that, as far as the work, all the crew's been doing good, you know, especially with no inmates, you know, keeping all the roads up, grass, ditches, shoulder work, so we've been wide open, so.
Okay, anybody got anything for Mr. Howard?
We gave you some money last meeting too to help your budget, I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry?
We gave you some additional money to help your budget.
Yes, with that, with Alligator Point,
Yeah, uh-huh.
the edge
Right.
right there, yes, sir, which was very good yesterday. We had a lot of high wind and
Saw that.
waves, which we checked it this morning, and everything was good, so.
Okay, good. Howard, as you go westbound on the S-curve right by Island View Park,
All
there
participants
is
are
a
muted.
state
Q&A session is
flashing
over.
caution sign suggesting people slow down to 45 mile an hour. On that westbound view of that caution sign, that caution light seems to be burned out and dysfunctional.
Okay.
Could you contact your colleague there at the state to have them
Okay.
check that out?
I get up with Ray and
Right, okay.
see if they can,
Okay.
if he can fix it.
Thanks.
And also, I think, excuse me, they got up with you about the trees and stuff, which
Yeah.
they say they own private property, all them pine trees, but, you know, I've tried to get them trees cut down, so no luck.
Were we going to get you a vendor that had those skills to help you
What's that?
a contractor to do that, or?
Well, as far as they say, it's all on private property.
Oh,
so-
it all is, that's
Yeah.
the point, is it was
Yes,
on
sir.
private property?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was relative to Lanark Village?
No, sir, East Point.
East Point, I
East,
see.
east end of East Point.
I
yes,
see.
sir.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
South side of the road.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Michael, can you handle the thing on your agenda about Roberts while he's here?
Oh,
Because he's gonna have to do some work on Creamer Street.
actually, yeah, two things going on. We'll do Robertson. After that, I've asked Mr. Pierce to open up the bids for his new administration, building, okay? So, make sure you are, why is it an aye? Okay, so again, Commissioner, I apologize for the massive paperwork. We're moving there. We're getting back to normal, well, whatever the new normal is, as best as we can. Okay, so on my report, which is a separate document from the agenda, and for those that want to follow along online, I've uploaded my report to, my full report with attachment as an item that you need to download separately if you go to your agenda packet. It's the first item under my name. Anyway, item 6, my report. At your February 4th regular meeting, the board authorized Commissioner Jones to contact Roberts about paving Plum and Creamer Streets at East Point and Bayshore Drive in St. George Island. This project would be a change order to the airport project Roberts is currently working on. The total cost of this change order would be $135,490, no cents, and paid from District 1's paving fund. And you had done that to save money on mobilization and a couple other things. And I'm being specific on the streets here, just so it's in the record. You guys were more general about the streets at the February meeting. So what I'm asking, board action to authorize a change order for the paving of Plum and Creamer Streets in East Point and Bayshore Drive on St. George Island from District 1's paving fund.
So moved.
Okay, before we do that, I wanna add a couple streets in my district. I got they got a public safety problem,
Okay,
and, while they doing it, I'll send the engineer to look at it.
well,
But it's couple of them.
yeah, and Commissioner, what we'll do, Mr. Chairman, I'll follow the same path we followed with Commissioner Jones. I got Andy from Roberts and Commissioner Jones to ride around together to specifically state exactly, so there was no confusion, state exactly what he wanted done, how to do it. So I'll set up an appointment for you two, ride around, and then he sends a proposal and we turn that into a change order.
Yeah, 'cause these got some big potholes in them.
Yes, okay.
Can't have people call.
Second, Mr. Commissioner Jones.
I
Yes,
got a
sir.
motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Parrish.
I have a comment, please, sir.
Go ahead.
I just want to clarify, these are sections of
Yeah.
these roads.
Sorry, not
Well,
the
the way
entire
it's
road,
written,
yeah.
I know, it's not
Yeah.
the entirety of the road.
Yeah,
so.
that's why it's $135,000,
Yes,
sir.
exactly.
Yes, sir.
Just for the public.
Yes, sir.
And you know, Mr. Chairman, while we're on the subject of deploying monies from our paving fund, could we, as each individual district commissioner, get a balance of what monies are in our paving fund? It can be a written report later for us to study.
You want it in writing?
No, please,
by
why don't we
email?
do that? We all can know how much we have to address these points.
Sure.
Yes, indeed, it's public record.
I will, sure.
Yeah.
I'll ask the clerk
Okay,
of
that'd
her
be
finance
great.
office.
Sure,
officer,
thanks.
Send that to you guys, okay?
I got short road, mine ain't gonna be much at all. Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, that passing,
Thank you. And Howard, if you would hold on, let Mr. Pierce, let us open up those bids,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Get up your way, sir.
you gonna open them now?
Yes, sir, because they were due yesterday, so it's not time, sir. Let me just go to one thing before I open the bids. I also had a complaint on Alligator Point, which I mentioned to Howard, but I want to say it in front of
Okay.
Commissioner Bolt, that people are using the KOA property, this county-owned property, as a go-kart track. We blocked off part of it, but people are getting there with ATVs and riding around in there. And we received that property with state funds, and part of the obligation we have with those property is to try and maintain it as natural vegetation. So we have to limit how people are getting on that property. And right now, they shouldn't be driving across it. So there's a bunch of concrete barriers down there. If you could move them so that we can block the accesses, that would be beneficial to everybody.
Good. If we block them, we block one, they make another one.
I
So,
understand
mean,
that, but-
they 4 or 5 pig trails, they just keep building them, so.
Right, we'll see.
But
if we
I
can-
blocked that one off, I've looked at it, so.
Okay. That and maybe also the end of, Harry Morrison Island Road, they may be coming onto the property that way also, I don't know. if we can
A
block
couple
that.
places, yeah.
If they got signage on it, or
There's no signage down there, sir,
No.
no, sir.
you might need to put some signage, tell them no.
Well, last night they were at 10:30 at night, they wouldn't have seen the sign. They were out here shooting around.
If you put the signs up, they just pull them up and throw them in the bushes, and they disappear, so.
Well,
Put some cameras up.
as we move forward, let's just remember these conversations that we just had. That's a good point.
All right, but if you can try and block those,
Yeah.
appreciate it. All right, so we have four bids, four bids on the road department. And I'm gonna ask the board, we're gonna open these things, but we will not award them for two reasons. One, we have to review, make sure that the bids are complete and accurate. And then we also need to evaluate the revenue stream coming in the road department, to make sure that there's enough revenue to build this building at this time. It may be that we have to hold off on construction until we have a better idea of the revenue stream, because as you know, the road department lives off of the state revenue sharing of gas tax. And certainly for 2 or 3 months, there was almost no travel on state roads, and so that's gonna affect how much revenue we receive. But let's open the bids now, see what the costs are, and then the finance department can make a judgment and give you a recommendation at the next meeting about where we stand.
Okay, let me ask you a question. How long them bids good for?
Well, they're usually good for 90 days.
90 days? Okay.
So, the first one is from Duncan Home Construction.
Where they,
They're at East Point, I believe is their address, but I'll tell you when we get it in here.
oh, Duncan?
Yes, sir. Okay, they're actually listing Apalachicola, Avenue D, Apalachicola. Okay, let's see here, let me see if there's anything on the letter here. Oops, put that down. It's okay. There was some bid addendums, so I'm having to go through and make sure we have, the right number, and looks to me as if this is the total base bid of $416,239.13. $416,239.13.
Bid bond?
I'll be honest, Commissioner, here's a bid bond. Yes, sir, here's the bid bond right here.
Okay.
I was not sure whether we required a bid bond, but apparently we did. All right, so that's Duncan. $416,000 and change. The next one, you can stick that, is a little bit confusing. The Oliver Sperry submitted an original bid, and then they came in before the bid deadline and amended and sent another one in. So I'm gonna open up the second bid that they submitted. We have the first one we didn't open, and we still have it in our possession, but they revised it on their own before the bid deadline. So this is what I'm going to open. It's from Oliver Sperry. Oliver Sperry.
Where they from?
Let's see here, sir. Well, they didn't have a cover letter, so Tallahassee, Florida. And their total base bid, $393,508. $393,508. And they have a bid bond. Yep. Right there. Okay. Those two go together. The next one is from Storm Construction. Storm Construction. And they have an email address. Let's see, they are from Carabel, Florida. We see signature Storm Construction from Carabel, Florida. Total base bid, $321,465. $321,465.
Did they have a bond?
Oh, I'm
Bid
sorry.
bond.
I'm sorry, sir.
Bid bond on the last two.
It says, attachment bidders,
Oliver too.
Okay, sir, I will,
You seen that?
if you don't mind, Commissioner, I will, that'll be part of the review, so I don't waste time here to make sure that they have a bid bond.
Okay, that'd be cool.
This might be it right here. Power of attorney is, this says, bonding, Merchants National Bonding, that's the bid bond. Yeah, the minimum area, addendum to bond, yeah, they have a bid bond. Okay, and then the last one is Certus Builders, Certus, C-E-R-T-U-S Builders out of Bristol, Florida. So we're set for Bristol. So their total base bid is $364,168. $364,168.
Bid bond.
And I'm gonna find the bid bond here for you, sir. Bid bond. Okay, those are the bids. If you'll turn them over to, is there a committee?
There is not a committee, but we could make, you want to do Steve Patterson and,
Steve Patterson, the road superintendent, and yourself.
okay.
I'll,
So
Yeah,
turn these
we-
over to the committee of three, being the building official, the road superintendent, and finance officer.
So moved.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Massey and Commissioner Byrd. Discussion. It's hard time, I'd like to keep this if it's possible, local. As much as possible, because it's a hard time all over. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I pass it now.
That issue.
A couple of things, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
Before we move on, I would like to allow the sheriff the opportunity to respond to that one call, so you kind of get the entire story, if I could say it that way. Did the one caller complained about coming from Georgia in his house and
New York.
I'm sorry, New York. Thank you, sir,
Yeah.
for that correction.
Come on up, Jay. Will?
Good morning.
On it, Jay.
So,
Let me get your name for the record.
yeah, A.J. Smith, Sheriff, Franklin County. So I saw the email earlier in the week from the gentleman from New York, and one of the things that was going on, when these folks come through the roadblocks coming into Florida, that information was never given to us at the local level, not even one time. So that was a problem from the state's end. But apparently this gentleman was living in his car. We received a complaint. We went there. Deputies dealt with it. And then I think he was going to quarantine initially. I think that's why he was charged $1,000 for 2 weeks, and then he wound up staying 1 day. Anyway, that's the way I got it. So that's the rest of the story. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Shane.
And if I could respond to the other caller that talked about, putting on the county's website, the financial status, the revenues, blah, blah, blah. As we all know, we talked about budget last week. The letters went out. So as we move closer to our budget workshops, yeah, we'll have that information, but it's a work in progress as we hit there. It's not like the pandemic is over. We can report something in total. We're moving forward, and as we move forward, things change every day. So I just wanted to say that too.
Michael,
Make
Mr.
sure
Chairman,
you,
we
Mac-
also had a conversation about having to do a hiring freeze.
Yes,
possibly, too.
yes.
So-
So there's
Sorry
things
about that, Mr. Chairman.
that we're, commissioners, that we're all moving towards.
and make sure
Can
you,
I,
everything we do is, I know it's public record. They'll see it. It's just take time. It ain't time for it yet, but it'll be there.
And one thing about it too, our revenue estimates, actually, when we get our sales tax proceeds, that there's a 2-month time delay. So we have
Right.
not received any of the sales tax proceeds yet for March, so we don't know how bad that's going to be. March may be okay, because we did make it till about, I think, March 14th or so, so it was about half the month. But after that, you know, we are 2 months behind, so we won't really know the effect of April or May, and that's almost been a complete closures.
And as we get our report, it will be public record.
It will.
And when you
Always have been and always will be.
if it's appropriate, when you give the report, if you can give it as a year-to-date comparison the previous
Okay.
year, that will, I think, be a real important visual for
Okay.
us.
Yep, can do. Oh, yeah, it's not that we're behind on
Well,
posting.
I know we're not.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
It's revenue stream coming through
Yes.
from state
Yeah,
levels
from
and
the,
so on.
through the Department of Revenue.
Right.
Yeah, it does take them about 2 months to
Sure,
distribute.
oh, I understand that, yeah, we're standing by passively. But we've already been alerted. Marcia, you've represented the courts and your clerk's office, and I'm sure there are other alerts out there we haven't heard yet from other constitutional officers, so we just want to be really careful.
Same thing happen every year.
Yeah.
All right, next on the agenda will be solid waste. Mr. Wanda Davis. Anybody had any other thing for? That's all right, he waiting anyway. Go ahead, Mr. Davis.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Hey,
I have one item on my report this
Let
morning.
me get your name.
Fonda Davis, Solid Waste Director, Park and Recreation Director, Animal Control Director.
Thanks, sir.
Wait in I have one item, the update and also action item. It's on the incinerator. The rehabilitation of the incinerator at the landfill is nearing completion. All metal panels have been repaired and redone along with tubing and the external air duct. With this portion of the project near completion, the fire bricks and refractory cement that act as an interior fire shield of the unit will also need to be replaced. McPherson System out of Tifton, Georgia is a regional sole source supplier for this specific brand of fire brick refractory cement and the installation that is needed for the incinerator. The estimated cost to fireproof the 18 panels within the incinerator will be approximately $850 per panel, or about $15,300 for all. The tipping fee fund is paying for the repairs to the incinerator, and this would extend the useful life of this infrastructure component by approximately 20 years. The engine may still need some work a little bit later on, but right now it's in good shape. So I just need a motion from the board approving me to spend the.
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor
Second.
by Commissioner Master, second by Commissioner Parrish. All in favor?
aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
That's it. The other thing that come up after I had submitted my report in was the walkovers down at Alligator Point.
Yeah, good.
Having a lot of calls and concerns about them. And we was waiting on, from storms back, they was messed up. Then the Michael come in and just damaged them worse. They are very unsafe. Takes a lot of money to replace. It's beyond repair, I would say replace. So I'm asking the board that I could just remove them.
Ready to vote?
I certainly have had a lot of comments from constituents. I've seen photographs. I've actually been to those walkovers. Yes to all the above that you've said. They are unsafe. I don't think they serve a purpose other than a hazard right now. Can we think of any other consequences of taking the boardwalk away? What will the State Department have to say about that? Trampling over beach dunes and that type of thing that may already be occurring as people bypass those disrepair walkways. What are thoughts on that?
Well, that's exactly what will happen. You know, by taking the boardwalks away, unless you take a separate action, you're not closing the beach access points.
That's right.
So the beach access points are still there, and what you'll have is people trampling down what limited amount of dune system there is there, and which is not good for the environment. That's why we built the boardwalks to begin with, to get people off the dunes. But I mean, unless you take a separate action, the boardwalks could be removed, and then people just walk across the sand to the beach in the same location where the boardwalk is.
probably a
Well,
good
can they be
safety idea
fixed?
to remove those
Well, that's the
boardwalks.
thing, they're so badly damaged, and I'll be honest, all wood structures in the sun have a very short life expectancy, so these
Yep.
not only were damaged by the hurricane, but they've been bleached out and
Yep.
just worn out.
Well, that's public safety.
Yeah,
It is.
so they need to
Yep.
either be removed, and built back when we have the funds to do that. But saying unless you take separate action by removing the boardwalks, the public still has the right to use that space even.
Okay,
I make a motion, take them up, we can afford to build them.
and I'll second it.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Massey, second by Commissioner Byrd. Any more discussion on it?
Perhaps another discussion might be, is it appropriate to have some directional signage to just focus people on going down that designated walkway and not trampling over the sand dunes and our precious sea oats? Is that appropriate to do? And do we have the money to do it?
We need signage
You got,
all over there.
you got some money to make some signs to keep people focused on that pathway that was there?
Yeah, Commissioner, I'm
Okay.
sure we.
Yeah,
Okay.
finally, we can probably use the same sort of methodology we use on those other ones.
Okay.
Where just to give me some, where we do laminate, we can do laminated, plastic
Yeah,
signs,
right,
just to
exactly.
say, please walk here or something
Sure,
like that.
that'd be good, yeah.
We need signage to keep the private and the
Yeah.
public apart.
Yeah.
People don't know what is public, people don't know what is private, so we need,
Right.
we got to have something or keep somebody from fussing over there, telling somebody own their land, stuff like that.
And also, Mr. Chairman, relative to trash pickup in those areas, do you have a schedule for trash pickup? Because I got word that it needed to be done at some point.
Trash
Yeah.
pickup as like yard trash?
Yeah, no,
Roadside.
I guess I'm saying garbage. The people who go on those beaches.
I got you.
Have a huge amount of waste, and is there a defined time when you guys are coming around to clean up all that?
Normally, we try to hit it hard, Commissioners, before the weekend and after the weekend.
Before and after every weekend?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, good.
We need to talk about, yeah. go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, based on Commissioner Bolt's comments, you need to ask if Commissioner Massey and Commissioner Bolt will amend their motion and second to include the directional signage for public beach access.
Okay.
Okay.
It will,
Y'all
so-
amend the
Yep.
motion?
so amended.
First and the second been amended. All right, y'all ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous. I need to say something on that. Look here, we got a problem with all that beach stuff and the TDC and everything else going together and the ARPA members, the CHAD department, the road department, the solid waste. Well, them people, they can't stay on the beach at one time, all the week. They can't stay in one place. TDC is putting up signs all over the world,
Yeah.
come to Franklin County. Beautiful beaches. They ain't paying the money to put a man to stay there cleaning up all day. The sheriff can't put all his deputies there to sit all day.
That's right.
Road department can't have a man there to sit all day. I mean, they got to spread out, so we got to do something different. If you want all this stuff, you got to accommodate it. And if we ain't making enough money to accommodate, we got to go back and look at something. Cause you're asking for everything, and we don't have the funds to do it. So, I mean, it's garbage all over it's trash, and it's garbage all over the county. They can't stay here all day and pick up here. They can't stay in Appalachia. They can't stay in Caribbean. They can't stay on St. George Island. I mean, you got to spread the wealth with what you got. Or either you got to, these people got other jobs to do. And you know, it's simple as that. I don't know, the problem is, we just got to fix it some kind of way. whatever, I don't know what we can do. We got to meet on it and right now it's not a good time to meet those, you're already in the pandemic, so I don't know what's going, we just got to.
And Mr. Chairman, it's, if I can interject something, it's a dilemma we've had all along, but this has made it worse, certainly this last weekend, because there's, in my opinion, there's been a built-up desire to get to the beach, and so the beach has been closed, and all of a sudden everybody's poured down here as if they'll never get another chance to go to the beach, and they've got to get all the sun they can get right now, and so we have been overwhelmed this last weekend with day trippers that I think over time will even itself out, but it's just been an overwhelming, and they brought more trash this time than they usually do. Now, in the case of St. George Island, most of the beach access points have garbage cans, and I think that's what Mr. Davis is referring to. He tries to empty those on Fridays and Mondays. Right. On Alligator Point, I'm not sure if they have the same number of garbage cans or not, but it's a different problem. The problem is those beach access points are all public property, and you know, there's 23 of them or so on St. George Island and 7 or 8 on Alligator Point, and you know, we try to treat everybody the same on both ends of the county. And it's a dilemma. You know, TDC has going to be limited revenues this year. Could money be spent TDC? Well, they already provide $25,000 or $50,000 of revenue. 75. Do I hear 100?
Actually, it got moved up last year.
Did you 75?
Right.
So they're providing.
So it is close to 100. It's 98.
Some money on this already, but we can't just resolve the problem this morning, Mr. Chairman, but you're exactly right. It's a dilemma. I don't know. My expectation right now is we're seeing this surge, this built up, pent up anxiety that they haven't been able to get to the beach, and hopefully that'll calm down. But overall, it's a problem, and it's compounded by the state of Florida. Not only do we locally market it, but the state of Florida markets itself as a tourist destination. And so we are swimming against a very strong current, because the state of Florida wants tourist dollars, because that's how they receive their revenue. It's through tax dollars, through sales tax. And you just jump to something immediately on Alligator Point. If and when we ever build a beach, guess what? We are obligated, if we want to maximize the amount of dollars we get from the state of Florida to build a beach so that the local people don't pay for that beach, if we want to maximize the amount of dollars, we have to have a 100-car parking lot for tourists and a public bathroom.
You need it.
And so that's where we're headed. If we want to receive those funds, we have to comply with the rules the state sets, and the state says we want tourists.
Well, you need that and an overflow to go with it, because it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. I mean, it's him. It's not coming. It's him. And then we just accommodation. You got to accommodate the people.
Right.
You ask them to come. They want the money. They want the money. They ask them to come here. Give them some way to park. They gonna park anyway. I mean, you know, and that'll cut down some of this confusion.
Well, in the case of St. George Island, one of the restore plans that we're looking at is stormwater, but that includes a parking plan for St. George Island. So we have, if we ever get the U.S. Treasury off of the virus issue and all back on the restore, we ought to be able to get moving on a parking stormwater plan for St. George Island. On Alligator Point, we had a solution 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, I forget the number of years, and that's when we were going to convert the county-owned property using state dollars into a park that had parking and a bathroom. And the residents of Alligator Point did not want to, and I understand their concern, but again, they live in Florida, and Florida says tourism is the way you fund things. The residents of Alligator Point did not want, I was at the meeting, this was before Commissioner Bolt got elected, overwhelmingly rejected the idea of a state-built park on the KOA property, because they did not want to see the increase in tourism down there. But there is no way around it. I'm sorry. You live in the state of Florida, and the state of Florida says tourism is the way you pay for things.
If they don't, that's not happening no more. I mean, you know, they can't have their way like that. Right. I mean, you asking for tourists to come in. You got a TDC. It's sending messages all over the world. Come to Franklin County. Beautiful beaches. Then you're gonna let little Alligator Point tell the people what we don't want? You get that parking place for them people before somebody get hurt over there.
Right.
You got people coming, they coming, and they gonna come more. And it was the day trippers from around the surrounding area. But now this technology done put this thing worldwide. and it's gonna add more people. So you got to accommodate people.
Right.
You can't put them cars on top of each other. You got to park. You know, if you got a lot, it ain't build a parking lot up in there. And you can stack them up on each other. That's what people do.
Commissioner, that you bringing that up, I had a lot of calls over the weekend about the parking on the right of way. So there we go again. I don't know, do I need to put signs out, no parking on the right of way like we did when they closed the beaches down, or I need some direction on that also.
What the people don't know is I don't know that's why I said we got to meet on something. You got private parking over there, and you got public. You got the public beaches, you got private parking, you got public beaches. Well, where the people gonna park for the public? We got to have some way for them people to park if you're gonna invite them over there. You done inviting them over there, and they gonna park. They young and they ain't listening at what you say. Don't park in, this my lot. Them people gonna park and go on about their business and come home when they get through doing what they do. They going back to their car. But you just got. I done it when I was young. Everybody else. I mean, you know, you got to. We just accommodation. we got to get something done. We got.
Mr. Chairman?
We need some parking. Yes, sir.
We have dune walkovers on the island?
Yes.
Where they park?
On the right of way.
Well, the difference with the
They
dune
park
walkovers.
on the county right of way also?
Yes.
Okay.
'Cause each dune walkover is a street end, and some of those street ends have sort of been bowled out by people parking there, and so there's a few places where you sort of get out of the traffic pattern at a street end, because the street ends are 100 feet wide and they go all the way down to the water. So there are some places they can sort of park, cluster a few cars, but admittedly, they park, and I wasn't out on Gory Drive this weekend, but I know how it happens. They just park up and down Gory Drive near the street end and sort of, you know, halfway block the traffic sometimes.
Is that what they're doing at Alligator Point too?
In
another version, yes.
Huh? You say yes?
Yes, they are. I took a tour and saw that. I mean, it's another
Okay.
version of the same thing, just
Okay.
overspilled
So when
parking.
you're looking at stopping people from parking on the right of way at Alligator Point, then you need to do something on St. George Island too.
Yes, they
You
would
can't
cascade.
treat
Mhm.
one end of the county different than you do the other.
No, you're
But
right.
people have been parking on the right of way for years, ever since there's been a dune walkover. So you wanna treat people at Alligator Point differently than you do the visitors to St. George Island?
No, so
No.
you can't do that.
Don't-
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So,
No, they want
There
the
you
tax
go.
money to fix that road down there every year. They want $40, $50, $60,000. They want no tourists down there, but they want the tax money to fix it.
You know, I agree. We've had a new exchange in the industry in Franklin County. It's exchanged from oysters to tourists, and we honor that. It seems that we ought to have a methodical approach on how we're going to deal with these different subjects of issues in our county. One of my constituents published a white paper, which we all got this morning, relative to the issues that are there at Alligator Point. Now, certainly, we can't solve all those today, but those points of garbage collection and human behavior and parking issues and so on have been reported to us, not only by our constituents, but by our sheriff. I took a field trip Saturday at Alligator Point and saw many of the issues. We can take those issues, clump them together in subject matter, and deal with them one at a time. The public needs to know that we have a future vision of a beautiful 100 parking place spot there at the old KOA with bathroom facilities in the future. In the meantime, as we plan for the future, we can take care of issues that we have right now. So I'd say we ought to organize our issues and start addressing them right now. Staff could give us some reports on how to deal with many of those issues, and I'd take that white paper that was done for us today and begin that way. Because I think they talk about county as well as Alligator Point.
I'm gonna tell you like it is. I'm not gonna vote to just take and spend no money just on Alligator Point.
Agreed.
It's gonna be spread it all over the county, 65 miles wide. I don't know how to do. we got to spread that money, but this is a thing we need. You need parking in every section. You need parking in every section. I mean, I'm in the section where I'm in the city, but it's time they take care of that. But it's time you can't even walk downtown. It's just like over there on the island and then over there, you know, both of them islands and everything. You can't. They coming. The people coming. Sometimes it be 10 or 20,000 people a day, or better, on both of them islands. That means you got 10,000 cars, 20,000 cars, at least 15,000 cars. Or if they come through 3 or 4 to the group, they gonna park somewhere. And they gonna put down trash. If we had a trash pickup all over the county, that would help. They'll have the people fussing about throwing a little garbage in their garbage, but you know, you need manual pickup all over the county and put some dumpsters out there. They gonna fill up, but you can't expect Park and Rec to just go there and it'll take a man all day just picking up trash, just picking up trash. It'll take another man, especially with the COVID out here, it's gonna take another man, a woman, all day cleaning the restroom. You're supposed to clean them with these conditions now every so often, behind everybody and everything. So this thing is sticky and I don't know, let's move on. We just set it up. What y'all wanna do?
Can't do no more than Fonda can do.
That's all we,
He can work on it a little bit at a time.
yeah, that's all they can do.
St. George Island invites people to come to them, wants the business. Alligator Point's trying to push them away because it's a retirement point, but that's not gonna happen.
No.
It's that open beach.
You got private and
Yeah,
public.
got private and
public.
Yeah, and the sad part about it, the state of Florida spent a bunch of money to build Ball Point State Park, and it has more parking facilities and capabilities than we do. But the problem is the water at Ball Point State Park is muddy, full of stumps and stingrays, and so the public doesn't want to go up there as much as they do Alligator Point. And so we have this great facility up there that, in my opinion, is underutilized. And you can't direct people to go where there are stingrays, and they just don't go up there.
Well, the sheriff never down there all weekend long. He's down there so long he had to cut his pants off, make him some short breeches. He stayed down there so long Saturday.
Mr. Chairman, do we still need to vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Y'all ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes now.
That's all I have.
Anybody else got anything for Mr. Davis?
Okay.
Keep
Thank
it
you.
in the road.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Don't let them worry. Next on the agenda will be Ms. Pam Bonilla. Emergency management.
Pamela Burnell, Emergency Management Director. I do not have any action items for the commission today.
Anybody got anything for Ms. Bonilla?
Mr.
I'll go after Alan.
Mr. Chairman, I have one thing on my report. It's action item number 20 on my report, or on the board's packet, I'm sorry, the board packet number 20. This is something that involves Pam. And so item number 20, in order to clarify the board record, the board needs to ratify the chairman's signature on a grant application written by Ms. Burnell's office for the purchase of backup generators for various county-owned properties. I'll say parenthetically, there's I forget, 5, 6, 7 sites that are in the packet, totaling about $300,000, $300,000 or $400,000 of generators. So it's not just one site. But Pam's got the packet. She'll get it at the clerk's office. The grant is the FEMA HMGP grant I had mentioned to the board, but apparently there was never a motion by the board to sign the grant. Ms. Brownell, again, has the details of the grant. She'll get it to the clerk's office. At this time, the HMGP grant match requirements will be met by using funds from the CDBG DR program the county is eligible for. And I defer to Ms. Brownell on the time she expects, but I will tell you now, but in the past, HMGP grants have taken an inordinate amount of time to be approved, sometimes even years. So what we have done on this grant, we've sent it in there to try and cover as many opportunities as we have. But at the same time, I will tell you, we are admittedly duplicating this. So while Pam has submitted a grant application for funding for a backup generator at the airport, we also have received funding for Triumph for the backup generator at the airport. So if we ever get the CDBG money, we will not use it for the airport. We've got Triumph funding. The same thing goes for the hospital. We might not need a backup generator at the hospital with the CDBG money because we might already get it through another funding source. But the CDBG, you shoot it out there, it's ridiculous how long it takes. I mean, literally, it could be 2 years before we ever receive word, and then we still got to go buy these things. So the CDBG program, as the federal government runs it, is the HMGP program, hazard mitigation program, as the federal government runs it, is very laborious, very slow, and but it's money sitting there, eligible and dedicated to us, so we need to apply for it. So we've applied for generators because that's a current use that we think is necessary for the community. The city of Apalachicola has ultimate applications. The money is there for the city of Apalachicola, city of Carabel, or the county to use it. So we're not responsible for their application. We're not responsible for the matching funds. Pam may know what their amount they asked for. I saw a letter at one point, they're asking for $1 million or $2 million, I forget which. But they're applying, and it's not competing with us. So if they get money, great. But anyway, so I just need a motion from the board to ratify the chairman's signature on the HMGP application that Ms. Brunel's office had put together.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Burt. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, that passed unanimous.
Just a question. If we're applying for funds, I guess I think this is it's professional application for funds for the same target outcome. We get funds from two sources to buy a new generator. And we get them awarded at the same time. How does that work? Do we get to divert?
No, you don't get to divert.
You forget, you just
say we don't need the
deny
funds.
one and
Yeah.
take the other one.
Yeah, and you take the one that has the best matching requirements or the shortest timeline.
I see. And that doesn't negatively affect us in the future of grant applications?
No.
when we did that?
No.
Okay,
It never has in the past.
good.
Go ahead.
All right, Commissioners, on my report packet, if I can refer to it that way. Item number 2. On Monday, May 11th, the Division of Forestry notified Ms. Brunel that due to the dry condition, the state suspended issuance of any burn permits. Based on that notice, and the several wood fires that popped up in the county and fires in surrounding counties, Ms. Brunel recommended, and I supported, a countywide temporary burn ban declaration. Before the board ratifies this action, are there any changes to the temporary burn ban declaration you'd like to discuss? One I had, Pam, is I looked at it again yesterday. When does it sunset? When is that determined? When does the
When's it
declaration
over?
end? How, yeah, is that, do we have
Time
to?
action of the board.
Actually, until we get a substantial amount of rain, it needs to stay in place. I mean,
No.
you seen what we got today.
No, that's fine. That was nothing. That's a drip.
Yeah.
I guess my question, you come back to the board and then we end it, or?
Yes,
can you
we'll come
end it
back to the
just-
board and say
Okay.
that we've had, that we've met the markers, that we can actually lift our burn ban.
Okay, that's was my question, Commissioner.
Now, on that burn ban, if weekend is Memorial Weekend,
Yes, sir?
It doesn't affect grills, Commissioner.
don't affect you?
No, sir, as long as, they make sure that if it's a charcoal grill that, in the past, we've had rentals, dump their charcoal in the woods, and that caught fire. So we're asking if you're gonna use a charcoal grill, that you make sure that you extinguish the coals before you dump them.
Don't look like we don't have no rental, do it?
Not,
I mean, ain't it so, they ain't open yet, right?
not yet, but, your TDC.
I tried to get them open.
Your TDC director is right now in a meeting with Secretary Beshears. Hopefully, he's gonna text me as soon as that meeting is over, and we'll call in, he'll have him call in, and he'll update us as to what was discussed there.
Do he run for office? They need to call him too.
I think he's appointed by the secretary's
they-
appointed by
Who's
the
that?
governor. but-
Alderman Sure. He got a new job.
The
He's
governor
appointed.
appointment, sir.
Oh, he's appointed.
He's hired, he don't have to run.
Yes.
See, they put it, they get, right now, all we doing is babysit, cause we under executive order. You know, they took all our powers and just do what I said, what Mr. Governor said, he's the boss.
Pretty much. In this instance, he is. So with that, I just need a board, I need a motion to ratify the issuing of the countywide permit.
So move.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Burke, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
I thank you, commissioners.
Hey, anybody got anything else from Mr. Nair?
Thank you, Ms.
It's
Payne.
supposed to rain tomorrow, next day, don't it? Got rain, okay. I don't know how much. Okay, we'll see.
Very little, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, can we take a 5-minute recess?
yes, we can. 5-minute break, please.
Come inside and check us out. We have something for everyone. Hello, welcome to Apalachicola Chocolate and Coffee Company. From our handmade chocolates, fudges, delicious old-fashioned caramel, pies, cookies, including the largest Greek wedding and macaroons you've ever seen. We also make the Italian-style ice cream called gelato, which is adult-tested and kid-approved. We have a full menu coffee bar, from lattes and cappuccinos to some of our signature drinks, such as our affogatos and black bottom coffees. And don't forget about the famous crafted coffee blend. We also roast our coffee beans on site, so it's super fresh. Don't like coffee? We also have teas and lemonade. If you're hungry, we serve breakfast sandwiches on our homemade bread, or we have New York water bagels. Or try the biscuits and gravy that are to die for. We also have lunch sandwiches and soups. We do carry some gluten-free and vegan options as well. Hear what some locals have to say.
I love the biscuits and gravy.
You know something? The coffee here is great.
I love the ice cream of the chocolate company.
So come check us out and stay a while. In here, it's just like Cheers, where everybody knows your name. Oh, hey, Dan.
Hi, I'm Carol Landis. I'm a professional realtor in love with St. George Island. When my husband and I and our dogs moved here in 2002, it was the beginning of an adventure that has never grown old in a community that is amazing. If you're thinking about moving to St. George Island or investing in our world-class real estate, then this community will be as important to you as the sand and surf.
Well, Kara to me is much more than an agent. She's become a friend, and since we bought the house, we've needed work done, and she knows everybody there is that can help us with that.
One of the key elements for the historical growth and value of St. George Island real estate is the fact that it's a great place to vacation and to live. The beauty of the Gulf of Mexico with its white sand beaches and blue sky has always been a magnet for me. It was love at first sight. As your realtor, I can help educate you on the various aspects of buying and owning coastal properties. From taxes to coastal setback lines to where to find the best oysters, it's all part of being your realtor.
Too often our friends tell us of it being a hardship to buy a house, and the agent was gone as soon as the closing. We've had quite the opposite experience with Kara.
If you're looking to buy or sell real estate on St. George Island, I'd love to work with you. Please call or text me at 850-653-7753.
James Bay Golf Resort is an award-winning Audubon Sanctuary golf course located off Highway 98 just east of Carabel. It is one of less than 60 Audubon golf courses in the world. St. James Bay Golf Resort was designed by Robert W. Walker in conjunction with Audubon International and features 14 lakes, well-manicured tee boxes and fairways, and extraordinary Tiff Eagle Bermuda greens. Club memberships are available to suit every need, but the course is also open to the public. Guests staying at our resort have access to all amenities like the heated pool, tennis courts, and workout facilities. Plus, they will receive a 10% discount in the pro shop, restaurant, and lodging. There is a daily happy hour at the Crooked River Grill from 2 to 7 with drink and appetizer specials. The Crooked River Grill features the best in Southern coastal comfort cuisine with an amazing brunch buffet every Sunday from 10 until 2, and lunch buffets every Tuesday and Thursday. There's also a prime rib special every Saturday night and weekly games like bingo and trivia on Tuesday and Thursday nights. Host your party on the beautiful patio and let us take care of everything. Our venue at St. James offers a perfect meeting space for groups as well as a banquet place for wedding events. We also have beautifully appointed spacious luxury condos available for long-term or short-term rentals. All of the units overlook the golf course and have a private pool. For more information and tee times, visit stjamesbay.com. Give us a call at 850-697-9606 or like us on Facebook.
Flash Franklin County, it's census time. Everyone's counted. I'm Linda Gibson, and I count.
Although our senior centers and libraries are closed temporarily because of COVID-19, Linda Gibson and her friends want to make sure everyone in Franklin County responds to the census.
Everyone counts. Please be counted. My name is Gladys Gatlin.
If you or someone you know has a tablet or laptop, now you can go to my2020census.gov and put in your street address to be able to complete the census. It's now easier than ever. That's my2020census.gov.
Everyone counts. So everyone in Franklin County, please do the census. My name is Sherlyn Clark, and I count.
Hi, I'm Sam Fortunis, owner of Island Fit Sets. Be sure to come see me on my paddle porch located across the street from the Blue Parrot. And be sure to watch my show, Stand Up with Sam, on Forgotten Coast TV. Come check out the Island Fit paddle porch on St. George Island, located across from the SGI Lighthouse and behind the Blue Parrot Restaurant. Just steps away from the beach, you can rent a stand-up paddleboard and be on the water in no time. Come sign up for your private or family stand-up paddleboard lesson, paddleboard yoga, fitness, or SPP fishing excursion. We now offer bay, charter, fishing, and shelling trips as well. Be sure to drop in Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday at 9 a.m. for one of Island Fit's beach yoga classes, or come by and see me, or check it out online at www.islandfitsup.com.
Franklin County Board of County Commission is now back in session. Next on the agenda, he's not here, but the extension director.
Mr. Lovestrand is actually watching the live stream along with 100 and some amount of.
115 the max.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're probably close to maxing out. So he's watching there. If you have any questions for him after you look at his report, feel free to contact him, or I could have him contact you, whatever you so desire, commissioners.
Okay. That's it. All right, next on the agenda will be the county librarian, Ms. Wendy Roundtree.
Good morning, Commissioners. Whitney Roundtree, Franklin County Libraries. You're doing good this morning?
Morning.
All right. Well, as you know, the Franklin County Public Library is closed to the public March 18th. But it's not all bad news. I do have some good stats to report. Curbside service has been a success. Between the two branches, we had about 187 visitors utilizing curbside services between the two branches. There's also been a spike in digital checkouts. Reports show 325 digital checkouts in the last 30 days. That is just for Franklin County card holders. When you combine the 4 libraries and the cooperative, our ebook stats are actually 4 times what they are this time last year. We've also integrated virtual programming. So what we've been doing is virtual story time. We read the story, we'll go over a short craft. We try to keep it to things that people have at home so they can follow along. The first video that we posted within a couple of days had already reached over 100 views. The staff has been working diligently on maintaining our collection, organizing. We have more specialized areas now for biographies, graphic novels, local literature, things of that nature. We also had the carpets cleaned at both branches on April 3rd, funded by the Friends of the Library, so I can confidently say the place is clean and organized. We reopened to the public yesterday, Monday 18th, at 25% capacity. The primary consideration in this plan is maintaining the safety of library patrons and staff while finding ways to provide necessary services that the library is uniquely positioned to perform. Both branches have pretty much one primary entrance and exit, so we will be monitoring that to make sure that we're maintaining 25% capacity and ensuring social distancing. Material handlings, we request that all materials be returned in the book drops to ensure proper sanitation. Checkouts, you can come in the building, but we're still encouraging everybody to utilize the curbside service, so we're still offering that. You can still virtually place your holds online, and we will bring the items to you outside if you don't want to come in. Programs and meetings, of course, with the ban on social gatherings still in place. No meeting rooms are open at this time, and only virtual programs will be offered until the ban is lifted. Internet access, I know that's what everybody is interested in. So what we've done is we have every other computer available, so we're at half capacity with the public computers. That's to ensure sanitation and that they're 6 feet apart. We've reduced the time limit down from an hour to 30 minutes with a 10-minute extension to Sohan. We're not yet borrowing from other libraries yet. So does anyone have any questions about our reopening plan?
I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciated you representing our county at the Wildlife Library Consortium teleconference that we had last week. I appreciate your statistics. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Anybody got anything for Ms. Roundtree? Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda will be Department of Health and Sarah Hines, Administrator.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Sarah Hines, and I'm the Administrator for the Florida Department of Health in Franklin and in Gulf. Just a quick update on COVID-19. So the number of cases in Florida, that's around 46,442. There are almost 2,000 deaths. In Franklin, we've had 2 cases. Both of those we know have recovered. And it's been a really busy time for all of us in Franklin as well as Gulf. And we still remain the lowest case counties in the state. So we wanted to first, thank all the healthcare workers involved in testing and educating the residents. And we believe the proactive approach that the Franklin County Board of County Commissioners took to educate the public, to work in partnership with all the stakeholders involved, and to pass the resolutions with enforcement strategies to protect our communities, all combined with being rural communities, made us better situated in this pandemic. So we're just very appreciative of the decisions made by the state, the county, and the cities to slow the spread, and how effective these resolutions and ordinances have been to keep us at that realistic medical system capacity. So now we're looking at that data. We're now part of the full phase 1 that's outlined by Executive Order 20-123. And this is really exciting and hopeful to see for all of us, because reopening phase movements mean we're continuing to test for COVID-19 by meeting benchmarks, and the percentage of those positive each day is remaining at a threshold low enough to continue to move in this direction. So on a local level, what we're trying to do is everything possible to support communities reopening. And so in order to do that, we're trying to ensure that we do not have active infectious people spreading the virus, and we're continuing to test in our counties. And once we were given that green light to test beyond the criteria, just like all the other healthcare entities were able to do so in Franklin County as well, we started the mass testing sites known as pods, or the points of distribution. So at the Carabel Health Department site, we tested 102 individuals. And at the Weems Hospital site, we tested 202. So we really want to thank David Walker and his team at Weems with the health department staff and the great partnership that we have, because we had a really amazing day and a great turnout. So that's those are really good testing numbers, way far exceeding the benchmark set for 2% of the population, which was at 247. I also want to say thanks to the sheriff and his team of deputies for the support that they've provided us at those events to make sure that safety remained our top priority at the pods, and just during this entire pandemic. They've been just so great to work with. And despite the increase in testing, we still have 2 cases. So and we've only had those 2 cases, and they've recovered a while ago. So we're going to continue to test, because we know this is what it takes to kind of prove that our counties are safe and they're healthy, and people can come here. And so our next testing site is going to be at East Point. It's going to be at the Vrooman Park near the East Point Firehouse, or with the fire department. Fonda, he left, but he gave us permission, so thank you, Fonda, for helping to coordinate that. It's going to be held Thursday, this Thursday, May 21st, from 10 to 3. So all you have to do is show up in your vehicle or your bike, or if you need to walk up, that's fine too. We're trying to be as accommodating as possible. You don't have to have any symptoms. It is a nasal swab. It's completely free. We're not billing insurance or anything like that. And it is that drive-through design. It's not an antibody test. For antibody testing, I'm going to let David Walker discuss that with his upcoming project that he has. And another big focus that we are looking at is long-term facilities. So we have a great partnership with St. James Health and Rehab in Carabel. And last week, Monday, all the healthcare workers and the residents were tested. Not because we were worried about anyone, but because St. James, you know, they wanted to take a proactive approach to really ensure that their healthcare workers were healthy to protect the most at-risk individuals. And that's the long-term care residents. All of those tests came back. I think it was 145. All were negative. And we had many just great opportunities in partnership working with them. And it's a big focus, these long-term care facilities. You hear the governor talk about it a lot. And when you look at the data, it is important that we protect those individuals and they continue that testing. And I think it's a presidential directive at this point. But it's a big focus because half of the deaths, or almost half of the deaths in Florida, are related to long-term care facilities. So other than that, we're working with different businesses and organizations to kind of help guide what reopening phases look like as we follow the CDC guidance to make sure that they're opening and they with those safety practices and precautions in place. So that's the update that I have.
Ma'am, Ms. Hines,
yes.
With the test you're given, how long do it take for you to get an answer?
For the test results to come back,
yes, ma'am.
We were working. We've changed labs with the community project. It was under one lab, and the tests were coming back pretty quickly within 2 to 5 days. We've just switched over to a new lab, and we're very hopeful that we'll get a similar turnaround time, but it may be about 5 days, 4 to 5 days.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody got any more questions for me?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, thank you.
Sure.
Just to clarify, and this is because members of the public have been asking me.
Yeah.
So we tested 102 over in Carabel.
Mm-hmm.
We tested 202 at Weems.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned 145 at St. James Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they reflected in our numbers? In
On
our
the
daily
dashboard.
report? You know what I mean? Because the daily report says 239.
I know. We get that question a lot.
You know what I mean?
I'm actually glad that you brought that up. The dashboard does lag a little bit. What happens is when you get tested, it's sent off to the lab, and those results are sent into our surveillance system called Merlin. And the dashboard uses Merlin to collect its data numbers, so it does lag a little bit behind.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It will eventually catch up, and by the end of this, we'll be able to tell you the full total. But we do recognize that there is a little bit of lag in the testing numbers that we have compared to what is showing up on the dashboard. So we do try to highlight that a little bit in the daily briefing just to educate our residents.
The reason I was asking for clarification, mostly for the public, and I myself want to know, because I've had some people tell me, okay, you're either not testing these numbers that you're saying you're testing,
right?
Or, you know what I mean? Or because something's just, it's not congruent.
Yeah, it is. We are dependent on when the lab sends us that information, and then when it gets sent to the dashboard. So
one more question, just to follow up. Are
Sure.
any of the numbers you just gave us in the 239, like the ones from St. James Bay? Are they part of that number, or do you know?
The
145.
The 145, is it included in the dashboard?
Yeah, in the 239.
Well, the dashboard today is going to say 315.
Okay.
Okay, so that will include numbers from St. James and numbers from Carabel, all other healthcare partners, and then a portion of the Weems.
Okay.
Well, I think we've gotten
So it's fluid.
about 50 back so far. So it will include all tests, but it has some catching up to do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fair enough.
I got one more question.
Sure.
People took the test. Okay, I guess my question would be, how long this thing's still out here, and it's I don't know how long it's gonna be there, but like, when do they need to reoccur or take another test? Oh, that's good. That's not good forever, huh?
Right. I think what we need to look at is just the trending data. I don't see us having to retest over and over again our communities, as long as we continue to see the number of testing continuing with the positivity percentages remaining low. Our goal is to ensure that we are eliminating any type of outbreaks possible, and we're successfully handling that right now in our counties.
So they good unless a outbreak come up?
Yeah, if an outbreak comes out, we'll obviously do contact tracing. If you have symptoms, of course you want to be retested. But right now, what we would recommend is that if you feel like you would need to get tested, go ahead and get tested.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just.
But also, aren't you saying too that getting tested really is a public service that people can actually do, because we are encouraging increasing our database relative to our geography?
Right. We want to make sure we're meeting benchmarks to provide some validity that the number of people that we've tested aligns with the reopening phases. And so in order to get there, it was recommended, using research from the Harvard School of Health, that we should look at 2% of our population, which is about 247 individuals. We've already exceeded that, and we're just going to keep going because we want to be able to prove that our communities are healthy and there are no outbreaks. And so we're willing to do what it takes to continue these pods in our communities and make them accessible for anyone who wants to get tested.
So we can really encourage the public to go get tested, because this is one way that you can help us help open Franklin County more with good science and data.
Now do these tests, I'm a commissioner, I don't know nothing about that. You know, y'all the professional, that's why I'm asking. But like they saying, this thing be out there and it don't show up. Do these tests catch that? The symptomatic or whatever they call it?
Yeah, if
like a person got it and then
okay, let me make sure I know what you're asking. If you're asymptomatic and you get tested, will it show up that you have COVID-19? Yes. If you want to get tested and you don't have any symptoms, you can come to one of our sites to get tested. And if you have COVID-19, the test will show that you have COVID-19. That's what the test is designed to do is to detect COVID-19.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else got any?
If I may, I just want to thank Sarah that in your reports now on the dashboard, you show that the two cases, okay. Well, because what it shows to the public, basically, we're at net zero, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be too positive, but then again, we need to give credit where credit is due, you know. Right. So I like that, and thank you very much for doing that.
Absolutely.
And Sarah, can you repeat again for the public where these two testing sites are currently?
Where the next testing site will be held?
And where are they now that people can go beginning now?
Okay, the next testing site that we have, and if you're keeping up with our updates, they're still the same. You can go to the Facebook EOC page. You can utilize our texting service, and there's a briefing update that we send out as well. But the next testing site, is at Vrooman Park at the East Point Firehouse, this Thursday, May 21st, from 10 to 3.
Ms. Sarah, I want to thank you and your staff, y'all, for keeping us safe, keeping the county safe, and y'all keep up the good work.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Next on the agenda will be Mr. David Walker, Wayne Memorial Hospital CEO.
Good morning, Commissioners. David Walker, CEO, Williams Memorial Hospital. Just to update you quickly on some of our initiatives, since you're talking about COVID-19 testing, what we're doing, part of our COVID-19 strategy, is to look at a COVID-19 testing platform in-house at the hospital, so that, you know, when individuals need to get tested for COVID-19, we can do those tests and get the results here locally. And so I have a meeting this afternoon with a vendor that the Florida Hospital Association referred me to. And this is another part of our strategy for COVID-19 to prevent, prepare, and respond to it. And the reason why that's going to be important, because we have of course, we have an influx of tourists coming into the area. Also, we have to look at pediatric testing as well. You know, when children begin to move into more activity, you know, within this county, they're going to need to get, they will probably need to get tested for COVID-19. If we have that system in the hospital, that parent can bring that child to one of our clinics or make an outpatient appointment, you know, get that child tested, and then get those results hopefully that day. But I'll find out, you know, this afternoon, you know, how long those results will be. It's not a major COVID-19 testing platform, but it's one that most small hospitals will use. And I think that'll be very important here, you know, for our community. Just projecting, you know, the pediatrics, you know, a lot of children are getting, coming down with infections with COVID-19. That probably be something that we'll probably want to look at, you know, on a radar. I'm sure the Department of Health probably would begin to look at that, also look at the data, you know, throughout the state of Florida. But we just putting these things in place to prepare and prevent and respond to COVID-19. Moving on from that, you know, we also is rolling out a antibody testing pilot project. There's a lot of talk about antibody testing. Basically, when people get an infection, their immune system make proteins called antibodies that help fight the infection. So we're rolling out a antibody pilot project here Wednesday for, you know, the residents of Franklin County. And basically what we want to do, we want to target, you know, certain groups that, you know, really are a high profile group that visit a lot of the public, like your restaurant workers, your grocery store workers, your retail workers, law enforcement personnel. Wednesday, that'll be our first pilot project. But we're offering antibody testing in our clinics, you know, at Weems East and West. All you need to do is make an appointment. Now, the antibody testing we will use is called Abbott. The Abbott antibody testing is probably one of the highest performance testing antibody testings in the nation. And so we'll be using that particular antibody testing. And usually you have to get a blood draw, you know, from the arm to get that test done. But the reason why we want to target those particular workers, like your grocery store workers, your retail, restaurant workers, the law enforcement personnel, but those three retail, restaurant, and grocery store workers, you know, we want to remove those barriers so they can get tested. And that antibody testing will simply detect, you know, if they have been infected with COVID-19 in the past. You know, we really want to remove barriers for people. You know, we've been getting people have been asking us for a while, you know, hey, how can we get antibody testing? Can you all do it? So we'll begin to do this on Wednesday. I am looking at other pilot days, you know, throughout the community in different locations. You know, I truly believe that, you know, we have to think differently as a hospital, meaning that we have to take services more into the communities. And so we'll be looking at different sections of the community, different targeted population groups, such as city and county workers, our seniors. Sarah mentioned earlier, you know, we got probably 83% of our deaths with COVID-19, maybe 65 years and older. So you really want to target that particular group. You know, in a minority community, it's real high, but I don't think it's high in this area in our city yet. You know, but we may do some targeted testing in the minority community on the Hill. But we'll look at our vacation rental workers. You know, those people that would go in and clean houses. You know, we probably need to set up a time frame that we can test them. And school employees, as well as daycare employees. I'm also in talks with the sheriff's office, you know, maybe, you know, to set up something that we can test those inmates in the jail, you know, for them, you know, as well as have its employees at the jail, you know, they can do the blood sample and send it to us, and we can send it off, you know, to the lab. And these services we're doing is free of charge, you know, to the communities. Like Commissioner Bolt said, it's a public service that we want to do for the community. You know, Franklin County, you know, we have a high number of individuals living in this county that have high underlying medical conditions, you know, with chronic disease. We're very, very high. And I believe that testing is the key here for rural communities. And so we're just doing what we can to strategize, to kind of like think, you know, beyond, although we're not inundating that yet with a whole lot of cases. You know, when we open back up, when we reopen, I think the cases will go up. But if they go up smoothly towards August, we okay. But if it goes spike up, you know, we have an issue. But we just putting different things in place here. And I think the antibody testing, what we're doing, the serology test that that would detect antibodies that have of a person that's been infected with COVID-19 is very important. And so we're opening that up as well. Another thing, we're part of our COVID-19 response. You know, we spoke about this before. I think Mike mentioned at the last county commission meeting. Health and Human Services, you know, distributed, you know, $10 billion to rural hospitals and health centers, and so every rural hospital in the state of Florida, you know, got money. You know, I think could have been the baseline, could have been $3 million really. Weems got $3 million, you know, from that. The initial monies that came out earlier, you know, we got 124,000. You know, the major hospitals were getting millions and millions of dollars, and it was like a cry. You know, what about these small rural hospitals? And so we're very fortunate and glad that they really focus on, you know, the small rural hospitals. You know, so that $3 million really is for to prevent, prepare, and respond for COVID-19, starting from February 1 all the way to present and going forward. You know, we believe, you know, looking at the data, you know, Aaron mentioned earlier about the tourism tax dollars. You know, Weems get half, 50% of that. You know, we know that that will be low on our end, you know, because of that. And then our EMS, you know, it's a busy time of the year for them. You know, the revenues have dipped, hospital revenues have dipped. So this money is used for operating expenses, lost revenues, but also to prevent, prepare, and respond to COVID-19. And so we think that that was very good. Brian can speak more about it, just the idea of it, the auditor that we have here. We also rolling out a marketing strategy, social media strategy with interviews with Dr. Conrad. We got we're gonna do a segment called Ask the Doctor. Dr. Conrad just did one the other day, telling the public, you know, it's okay to come back to the hospital. Because what we're seeing that when COVID-19 happened, a lot of people that really would come to the emergency room who were sick was afraid to come in. And then when they come to the emergency room, they have more medical conditions. These conditions are worsened then. So this is a nationwide push, really, you know, that hospital's been seeing that. And so he's been doing these public service announcements. And then on Thursday, he will do an interview with Royce, with Forgotten Coast TV, with our lab director, Donna Terratute. Donna Terratute probably is probably one of the most credentialed lab persons I've seen, you know, with her lab expertise. And so they will begin to do an interview talking about what is antibody tests, you know, what is that, you know, and so I think that'll be very helpful to our community. Another part of our COVID-19 strategy is rolling out our community paramedicine program. In that program, we'll have our community paramedics. You know, we have somebody we have a patient in the home that need a COVID-19 test, but may be afraid or too sick to come to the clinics. We'll send the paramedics out there, you know, to do that COVID-19 testing on them. Also, we'll connect the paramedics with our East and West clinic providers. If they have a patient, you know, that may be scared to come to the hospital, to the clinic, they will do that office visit, you know, through a telehealth with them. So we think that is very, very great as well. So those are my COVID-19. A lot of things are happening. You know, we still have to purchase stuff because we have our alternative care site that we have to develop. So we still have to purchase equipment and supplies for that, and just in case if we need to go to a second phase of our COVID-19 treating individuals in the hospital. Anybody got any questions? I know I've said a lot in general.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Mr. Walker, for you and the staff keeping us safe. And now, these testing, what y'all doing now, is they free to the public?
Yeah, these testings right now, the antibody test is free to the public, you know, as of now. And the reason why I'm doing it free to the public, I really want to remove the barriers for people, you know, getting tested. You know, we need people to get tested, and we also need the data. You know, and I think this is something that we'll look at the data, you know, here, and then maybe 3 months later, you know, maybe roll out another one, you know, to look at their data to see if anything is changing, especially when we open back up the county. So you got to have some kind of data points, but you really want to remove barriers from people so they can get access to care, and part of that is the testing.
Well, put that out there good, because a lot of people won't, you know, if they think they're gonna charge them, they won't take them. So
yeah, we'll put that out there.
Stress that out there, and that might help get you some more people in there.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we definitely do that.
Anybody else got any?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I can't think of a better safe harbor to get your health care taken care of right there at ground zero in our hospital, filled with expert people who know how to avoid disease. And I am just so thrilled to see the safe harbor feeling that we have of our hospital. It's open for business, and it's certainly there for all people to take advantage of right now. It also, in my opinion, shows continually the importance of this hospital in our community. All the items that we just heard about and more make this hospital a very viable entity in our community.
All right, I want the public to know you can go get some free testing for the COVID, but we're gonna have to charge you for the other stuff.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we have to charge for that, you know.
I'll ask a question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Walker, when all this first started, there was some discussion about purchasing more respirators. Have we received those yet?
Well, we received one. The other ones are shipped, you know, so we're waiting to get those in as well. And one thing about that too, since you mentioned, you know, we were going to purchase that out of the trust fund and then get reimbursed from FEMA. But since the monies that we're getting goes back to February 1st, you know, we can account for that part of our funding for that.
Can we get an ambulance out of that?
You know, I thought about that at first before I read the restrictions. we cannot get an ambulance out of that because initially, you know, this money got restrictions with it. You know, it has to be towards preventing, preparing, and responding to COVID-19. Which ambulance, you need that. I don't. That may be a far reach, but believe me, we're looking. I'm looking into it. You know, but we want to make sure we do everything through the guidelines of grants. You know, being in my former life, you know, I worked with Sarah at the health department, and 90% of our programs were grant funded, so we know that everything needs to be matched back to a grant, you know, and the requirements. But that was my first check, to be honest with you, because we definitely need one.
Way to go. We'll get one.
Mr.
Yeah, we
Walker,
gonna get it.
question to follow up on what the chairman asked. I'm sure you've seen, but I saw about a week and a half ago the way that we usually purchase ambulances through the Florida Sheriff's Association bid list. They have changed or did something different for ambulances and emergency responder vehicles, and I think it's through 2021, but it's either 10 or 20% off of what they used to be in response to COVID-19.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at. Yeah, I looked at that, and Lou and I would take a look at that as well. I think it could be 20% off.
Just make sure you're aware of that.
Yeah, Michael sent it to me.
Anybody else got anything for Mr. Walker? Well, thank y'all for keep up the good work. Keep us safe.
Thank you, and I'll Auditor Brian Hall.
Thanks everybody for having me. I'm Brian Hall, partner with the accounting firm of Carr, Riggs and Ingram. Michael's handing out the audit reports. Appreciate that. So today we're going to talk about the results of the September 30, 2019 audit. Before we get started, I do want to say thank you for having me again, and thank you for your business. It means a lot to us, especially during these very difficult times. So what I'll do, similar to last year, is I'm just going to kind of go through at a high level and talk about some things that that really jump out to me, and that if I was sitting in your chair, I want to know. And I'll move pretty fast, but if you have any questions, you want me to drill down on anything, just holler at me. I'll be glad to do that. So in the packet that you've got, the first page, page 1, is the opinion. This is what we call in our business an unqualified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance we provide as CPAs that there's no material misstatement of the financials. So skipping ahead to page 3, this is what would used to be called the balance sheet. These days it's called a statement of net position. But the top line on there is your cash and cash equivalents. So you'll see that number is about $271,000, where it was about $750,000 the year before. Again, these numbers are now about 8 months old, so this is not showing what it is today. This is just showing what it was at September 30th. But the cash was down at September 30th. The second line on there, patient accounts receivable, that's where we spend most of our time in any hospital audit, of which we do many, making sure that the accounts receivable are accurately stated and truly reflect what you're going to collect in cash. We're very comfortable with that number, and you'll see it's comparable with the year before. In the center of the page there, you'll see your capital assets. You'll notice there was a large addition this year. The capital assets before depreciation were $6.2 million versus about $4.6 the year before. Almost all of that is related to the roof project after Hurricane Michael, which is being funded through insurance. The bottom section is the liabilities, so this is what you owe. Really, the only number that jumps out at me there is your accounts payable of $908,000, which is pretty comparable with the $836 that you had the year before. The bottom section is your equity, so the difference between what you own and what you owe. Your equity is pretty strong there. You got almost $5 million of net position, which is equity, versus $3 million the year before. And the change there is due to the profit that we'll show on the next page. So good, strong equity for a hospital this size. On page 4 is your income statement. The first subtotal there on page 4 on the left is $6.2 million. That's your revenues. You'll notice they were down just a tick from the year before, which is 6.4. But again, remember that this fiscal year that we're auditing and we're talking about now is when Hurricane Michael came through and they were shut down for a period of time. So you really only had about 11 months of activity versus 12 the year before. So absent Hurricane Michael, the revenues probably would have been up a little bit. Your expenses were up $800,000, which, as you can imagine, are a bit harder to control than it is revenues. But that does seem like a reasonable change in our opinion. Generated an operating loss of $2.6 million versus $1.6 the year before. Again, that was exacerbated by Hurricane Michael. And then you come down into the non-operating revenue section there towards the bottom of the page. The big number there is other income of $1.44 million. That's where the insurance proceeds of the roof come in. So we put the roof on as an asset, and then we have to show a credit to revenue for that same amount because it's being covered by insurance. At the bottom, you get the county activity. So you got the transfers in and transfers out. I have a note that'll show the detail of that, but you can see about $3 million of transfers in from the county. That number includes the $690,000 that you guys forgave of hospital debt. So really about $2.4 million, or I guess about $2.3 million of tax and other funding went from the county to the hospital. The net result of all this was a change in net position, or profit if you want to call it that, of $1.8 million for the hospital in 2019 versus about $3 million the year before. The next page is page 5, and I won't go into a lot of detail here, but this just shows you how the cash was either generated or used by the hospital. Really what's important to me on this page is if you look at the subtotal of the first section on page 5, you see a negative $2.5 million. That's the operations of the hospital. That's just running a hospital, the billing, the collecting. So it cost $2.5 million to run that hospital. That's not including the county subsidy. So if you were trying to take a step back and say, well, what is it actually costing us to run the facility? It was $2.5 million for 2019. Again, remembering that Hurricane Michael impacted this year. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to show you a couple of notes that are of interest to me. On page 12, the very bottom paragraph on page 12 is your charity care. I'll give you a second to get there. Third line up, kind of buried in there, is $424,000. So $424,000 was the actual estimated cost that the hospital had for serving people that were uninsured in charity, for giving away services to the community, and the amount of $424,000. For a hospital this size and in the shape that it's in financially, especially given a year when we had a Category 5 hurricane, to be able to contribute $424,000 of cost in terms of free services to the community that's a really good story to tell. The hospital is definitely contributing to its to its community. And this is just, that tells the story in black and white to me. I'll skip all the way ahead to page 22. The bottom of page 22 shows the activity between the hospital and the county. And you can see the various funding sources, the taxes, the forgiveness of the interfund debt, and then the transfers out of the operating fund. They all total, again, $3 million. If we were to step back and look at the cash subsidies that would have been required just to break even last year in terms of cash, it was around $2.6 million. So that's kind of where they landed last year. And again, that you'll see there that in the middle there, that $690,000 is the debt that you guys forgave of theirs. So other than that, obviously other than the Category 5 hurricane, the hospital operations were relatively comparable with the year before. So the back section, I don't know if you have, I'm hoping you have a back section, but on page 28, we're required as your auditors to communicate a number of items to you, but basically anything that we deem important enough to put in writing. And if we had any audit adjustments of significance, they're going to be labeled as either a significant deficiency or material weakness. In your case, this was definitely what I would consider a cleanup year. And on page 29 through 32, you can see the findings that we had. Some of those repeated from 2018, some were new this year. All of those are triggered by accounting auditing adjustments that we needed to make. Again, this was definitely a cleanup year and an extraordinary year in the nature that we had a hurricane and we had a lot of accounting that went into that. There's a lot of unusual transactions in that insurance proceeds were paying for the roof directly. So in a lot of ways, the hospital was not directly aware of the cost that was being involved that needed to go on the book. So we had to do a little homework there, sharpen our pencil to get to that number. But in any event, there were a lot of adjustments that David and Bill and the team can provide to you. These are the findings that we had and the material weaknesses. The state will require the state via ACA will require a corrective action plan. I know David and Bill are working on that. They've been studying these findings, and we're going to be working with them to hopefully ensure that these findings don't repeat for 2020 audit. Beyond that, there's some other communications, but they're basically all negatives. We didn't have any fraud. Obviously, if there was fraud, you'd be hearing from me a lot earlier than today. We had no difficulties with David and Bill. Quite the contrary, they've been over backwards to help us, and they truly, especially David and his team, they truly do love the hospital, and you can tell. They're putting in late hours and nights and weekends, doing everything they can to keep the hospital going forward. So we really do appreciate that, and really just nothing else of an accounting nature that we need to discuss. I'd be glad to entertain any questions about this year's audit. And also, if you'd like to talk about any of the stimulus packages or those kind of things going through from an accounting perspective, I'd be glad to try to answer those questions as well.
So you a real person to do the audit, right? You're a real auditor, right?
Yeah. I like to think so. Yes, sir.
Well, the reason I want to ask you one question: is we doing all right?
I mean, I think that the proof's in the pudding. The hospital is doing well given the county subsidies. If those were to go away, it would be a different story. This fiscal year 20, the numbers are going to kind of be eye-popping because you got a lot of funding coming from the federal government. So it's going to tell a little bit different story. And it'll be a little bit deceiving. But fiscal 21 will be kind of back to normal. So. I was talking to David this morning about the relationship of the hospital and the county and just the way your hospital's set up and the way your community is. There's always going to be a need for some subsidy from the county, and that is appropriate, and that's what we see in just about any hospital of this nature. The question is what amount is appropriate. Is $3 million appropriate? It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be necessary. you know, is $1 million more appropriate? Possibly. But we got to get back to where that makes sense. Right now, they need the money, or they needed the money in 19.
I guess the reason I ask you that, cause, you know, you being a real, you know, CPA and everything, and you tell us we're doing good. I think that sounds good, cause we have some street corners coming here every year telling us this, that, and the other, and they can't count the two. So I appreciate you doing that, sir. I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I would submit that I would like Brian Hall connected with Jim Coleman and this report as part of our management strategy for the hospital. I think this is a good baseline to begin with, and he's given us a lot of insight. Would that be an appropriate thought?
If you remember correctly, sir, when you guys made a motion to allow David and I to negotiate with Jim,
Yep.
I asked you to authorize me
Okay,
to
good.
engage
Good.
Mr. Hall to do that. So that's already been taken care of.
And I did it deliberately. I just wanted the people to know the financial integrity that we have as we move forward in management.
Yes.
I did that deliberately. Relative to the accounts receivable notation that you had on page 31, I just want to think for a moment about this. Functionally, accounts receivable and how services are rendered in a hospital, patients are cared for, we file claims.
Yes, sir.
Then the claims come back, denied or paid.
Right.
And were they paid according to CPT coding and
Right.
what we billed, line item. And then the follow-up, if there was a mispayment, that we follow up and go get that money.
That's right.
That's one of the areas of cleanup that I wanted to hear you say
Absolutely.
something about that and tell me what your thoughts are.
Sure. We had a kind of a couple of findings here. One is just from the accounting perspective. We did have to increase the reserves. In this case, the hospital was using reserve rates. So like you said, in any hospital, what you bill is almost irrelevant. You're going to get paid based on your contract. So there's always going to be a difference between what you bill and what you collect. And measuring that and getting it the right amount is the hard part. So in this case, the hospital had used some rates that were not either not accurate or not current. So we had to remeasure that and book an adjustment. But I think the bigger thing operationally, to your point, was the denials. And we made a recommendation to management that they increase their staff there. When we came in, there was a large book of denials and claims that, and quite honestly, it's not that they're doing anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The insurance companies use denials as just a way of managing the relationship. So unless you have somebody to follow up on that and really hassle them and do everything that they require and jump through all those hoops, you can't collect that money. In this hospital's case, they had a couple of ladies who I think were doing a really good job on processing the claims currently, but they also didn't have the time to follow up on the denials. So you had a huge backlog of, or maybe huge is not the right word, but you had a pretty significant backlog of claims out there that weren't getting worked. And also the way that these insurance companies do this is they also kind of give you a double whammy in that they'll deny it on the front end, but then if it gets more than a year old, they'll say, okay, well, you can't have it, it's more than a year old. So you have a little bit of a window there to follow it up. So I'd recommended that they spend some time on that denials. I was told this morning that they've worked that list down to a much more manageable number. So I'm really excited to hear that. But this is definitely an area of focus, and this is not a surprise. I mean, they know that. And I see some improvements from what I'm being told for 2020.
And then has there also been addressing our contracts to get them up to current modern payment?
Yes. I won't name any names in a public forum, but I would say that we did an analysis for the hospital. And as a critical access hospital, it gets kind of complicated, but really at the end of the day, Medicare is paying you essentially your cost plus 1%. So you can't lose money on Medicare, but you're also not making a lot. So we looked at all the payment arrangements. We got every contract the hospital had, and there was a lot of them. And we went through and calculated what you were getting paid. in many cases, you were below Medicare, which means that if a patient that had that payer walked in your hospital, you were guaranteed to lose money. It's just a matter of how much money. So, and then also when we looked at it as a whole, we weighed your revenues against those payers. We could see that the hospital was guaranteed to lose money every year just based on these contracts. So, to their credit, David and his team were very proactive. They hired someone and went after these contracts. They've done some very significant renegotiations that are going to prove they're going to pay dividends. The problem, and these are sins of the past, what I want to call it. The problem is that there's going to be no payer, no insurance company that's going to be willing to come up to what's reasonable in 1 year. This is a fight that you have to continue to have with them. But the insurance companies know better than we do what a deal they've been getting. So they have been willing to budge. They've actually seen some really kind of eye-popping increases that we've been able to negotiate, which just kind of tells you that the insurance companies knew that they were underpaying for a long time. Very good questions.
Okay, anybody else got anything for Mr.? We appreciate it.
Yeah, very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for the report.
Mr. Chairman, before you move on, I was in error this morning. You asked me about the sheriff, if he was here, and I thought he was here to talk about the, when we got to the public access part. But he has an additional item he'd like to speak to you about, the parking issue in general around the beaches on Sunday. He has a couple ideas he wants to run by you and see how you feel about it and see what the attorney has to say about those that would assist him in enforcing the no parking areas throughout the county, around the beaches.
Next on the agenda will be Sheriff A.J. Smith.
Hey, good morning.
Morning,
A.J.
sir.
Smith again. So the past weekend, we saw a huge influx of people to the beaches, Alligator Point to St. George Island. And I'll start with Alligator Point. Phone started ringing early. We actually wound up sending multiple deputies down there just to handle the parking issues, which is really a total waste of resources, having deputies writing tickets for cars that are illegally parked. So we have a couple of record services here in town, and one of them, and probably both of them, are willing to either boot cars, which we talked about months ago, and we're still, I think we haven't ironed that out yet, but I think there is a way to do it. The next thing is just having the records where they can tow. We'll have to sign it appropriately to let people know that they can be towed, so that a deputy doesn't have to be there when these illegal parkers are there, and the records can just go and tow them. But I think we're going to need approval from the board to do that. And then, because there is in statute that if they do that, they notify the sheriff's office in 30 minutes, they take a picture of the car, and then they can tow it. So that would certainly make our life easier, but we do need to come up with something that's going to free up the deputies and free me from having to send additional deputies down there to write parking tickets and stand by while cars are being towed, because this is the 4th year I've been dealing with this issue, especially when summertime starts. We've done a lot of media, we've given hundreds of warnings, and it just doesn't work. People are still not coming into compliance, and I don't know, we wrote the uniform traffic citation, which is a $106 ticket, instead of the $25 civil penalty that comes from the ordinance. I guess we could up that, because they'll pay $25 to go to the beach for a day. So we really need to get this fixed so that we're not wasting the taxpayers' dollars. We need to be out doing the other things instead of writing parking tickets. And if you take, like I was down there Sunday, I wrote 4 tickets myself. It'll take you 15 or 20 minutes by the time you get the person's information, put it on a traffic citation, answer their questions. And of course, a couple of them were upset with me. They said I was rude to them, but I wasn't rude. I was like, we got business to do. We had a lot of people that were calling. We had a lot of cars that were illegally parked. So it takes a lot of time, and we need to find a more efficient way of handling this, since people don't seem to want to comply. We also had parking complaints down towards Ball Point, where people are going on the side roads and parking in those areas as well, but there's no signage there, so there was really nothing we could do except ask them to go. But again, we're having to go down there and do it. So that's a whole nother issue. Do you want to put some signs on those side roads? Because basically we were responding to complaints. That was the biggest thing down in the Ball Point area where, and then we'll move to St. George Island, which is another issue. When on Saturday, they closed the state park when it reached capacity. And so when that happened, everybody went to the side roads and to Gorey Drive. And then that created some traffic issues because they parked on both sides of the road. So the main road became narrow, and it was even hard for the deputy to get their car through there. And again, there's no signage there, so it's really, how you want to handle that. I know that, kind of like Commissioner Parrish said, people have been doing that for years, and we respond to complaints. People live around there. Some are okay with it, some aren't. But I think we also talked to the state park. Major Carroll called to the park and said, hey, if you're nearing capacity, let us know so we can, maybe try to do some more proactive patrols and let people know. But again, St. George Island is a little bit different, the parking issues, than what we have at Alligator Point. So it's just a matter of how y'all want to handle it. And most of the time, I think St. George is probably not that big a problem, but this weekend we may see a problem there because if the weather's nice, excuse me, if the weather's nice, we're going to see record numbers just like we did Saturday. I've never seen so many people here. You couldn't even pull out on Highway 98. The traffic was so heavy, so many people coming. So, gentlemen, did I cover it? Can y'all think of anything else? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, let me interrupt one second for one thing. Sheriff, you're exactly right, but I'm gonna place part of the blame on the state park system because I didn't realize this as much till we talked just a minute ago. The state park has cut their capacity on the park, I guess maybe by 3/4. I don't quite know what their capacity has been cut down to, but it's not nearly what the park can hold, and so people don't realize that. And using St. George Island specifically as an example, they came down thinking they're going to go to the park because the park was open. They can't get in. They've already driven from Tallahassee. They're going to park somewhere. And so the state of Florida, the Park Service needs to do a better job of warning people about the capacity issue because once you get down here, yeah, I understand what you're going to do. You're going to park somewhere. So I'm a little nervous about starting to tow people who came down here not knowing this park was at capacity. So either the state park needs to help us put signage out earlier or do something because it's not the individual's fault thinking they're going to get into the state park.
Well,
I understand the situation.
Yeah, and I think, I'm like Commissioner Parrish. I want to treat everybody equally across the county, but the parking issue at Alligator Point is certainly much more extreme than what we experience on the island. And
it's like this. We got to start somewhere. We can't tout the sheriff department.
No, I agree.
Paying tickets. I meant writing tickets. You leaving the whole county wide open when he got to send all his resources to write tickets and beach goers.
So it would be good if the record companies could freely roam and tow these folks, because that definitely. There were a lot of them. I think we wrote 27 tickets over the weekend, and we towed 13 or 14 cars. Were people mad? Yeah, they were mad, but the people that live down there and us, we expect them to do what they're supposed to do. These public access points are clearly marked, and there is no doubt about where you're supposed to park, but they continue to violate it. And then we haven't even addressed the beach issues, because when you have a large number of people going down there, then the quality of life issues, they're littering, they're going under people's houses and using the bathroom. They're doing all these things, and of course, we're handling those calls too. So, and then the private property issues. People are going onto private property and parking, and then they call us about that. And we've educated some of them so they know that if somebody parks on private property, we don't tow the car. They call the record service, and they can have the car towed.
See this here? you need to let them, you need to get them tow trucks, cause they'll get on that internet, and that'll clear up some of them issues. You're gonna tell them, say, y'all better go down there and act right, or they gonna tow you. If you don't, you know, that thing there work good for everything. They let you know that the sheriff department not playing. If you don't do nothing, they gonna continue to decline. And they know what they doing.
Let's go ahead and think about this. It's certainly a financial neutral situation. Let's go ahead and support the sheriff, and I would make a motion that we allow the tow trucks to do that technique of roam and tow and give them the responsibility to do that, not only for this upcoming weekend, but as we go forward. I think that we should allow that service to occur.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Burt. Just a minute, and I got.
And I had another thought.
Designates no parking areas, and there are supposed to be signs warning people that they're subject to being towed in those no parking areas.
Yes.
The sheriff is exactly correct. If we don't properly notify the public about the towing problem or the towing potential,
yes,
then the county runs into a liability issue. So we need to make sure that the signage is in place for no parking, and that the signage required by the ordinance warning people that the tow, you have to put the name of the towing company, the contact information for the towing company on the sign. So all of that needs to be done, but your ordinance already does allow for towing. I don't know that we need a separate motion to allow for that. We just need to make sure that the signage is properly in place, and then the enforcement can occur.
And I'll add that signage caveat to my motion. So
You said we don't need no motion.
We already have the ordinance in place, and the ordinance requires signage. What I'm hearing from the sheriff is it sounds like signage is not in place, so we need to make sure
Right.
that signage.
I mean, there's signs that say you'll be towed, but we do need, it needs to be tweaked like, Michael's saying, and we'll take care of that. We'll work with Fonda to get that done this week, get the signs up, so that, coming into this holiday weekend, that's what'll happen.
So,
Is Fonda here?
He just left, but Fonda and I have been and the guys have been talking, and he works great with us, so. Each year we try to do something different. I think it was last year, the year before, we put rocks out so they couldn't park in some of these areas, and, that helped. Then they went down there, even some of these boulders, I don't know how they moved them.
Yeah.
They had moved them. I mean, it's like, what are y'all doing? It's. Okay. Majors tell me they're gonna open to 50%. They were at 25, so that may alleviate some of the problem on the island. But again, they're gonna let us know, and then we'll, we can go from there. And
Well, yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
What if? Yeah, go ahead.
Again, the way the parking ordinance at Alligator Point works is essentially it authorizes parking along all of the right-of-ways, except in the areas that are designated no parking areas. So those areas designated as no parking are the ones that need to have the signage on, clarifying the towing company's name, how you contact the towing company, and then if you park in the towing or no parking area, you will be towed.
Okay, and it's different on the island, right? It's different on.
We don't have a no parking ordinance on the island that I'm aware of. I mean, that's right, we do not, yeah.
The only thing.
The situation on the island, I think, has been exacerbated by the state park, not letting most people go into the state park, so hopefully this weekend won't be as bad.
I would say let's, I didn't look to see how many complaints we had from the island. Certainly Alligator Point was many, many more. And most of the folks, like Commissioner Parrish said, they've been parking like that on those side streets and on Gorey Drive for years and years and years. And, if somebody calls, we're gonna go over there, but I think we wrote one ticket and asked some people to move. We didn't tow any cars. I don't think we towed any over there. May have towed one. I don't know, not many. So I would say we would see how the state park does, and maybe if it becomes a problem during the summer, then we could come back and address it. But, right now I think the biggest problem I have is Alligator Point and the folks like that, so those areas. But again, there are people that are parking outside the designated parking areas, and they're parking on the right-of-way, because when you pass the S-curve where the KOA is, that's where the no parking signs begin. So, and that's where we're gonna put the follow the statute and put what the tow company's name that they're gonna be roaming, because we had people parking down there as well. And that's a problem, because when they park there, then they walk through people's yards, and they throw their litter down, and they do things like that, so.
So I guess what I'm hearing is the problem on us for not having the proper signage, right?
Well, I mean, we haven't thought about letting the wreckers roam. That's a little different than before it was like if there was somebody illegally parked, the deputy would call, the wrecker would show up. Of course, the wrecker may be an hour away, and so they have to wait, then they got to tow the car. So, I mean, it's, for one car, you could spend a couple of hours, and then you still got 20 or 30 other cars illegally parked. So this way, wrecker can go and hook to it. I think one guy even has a place at Alligator Point, so he can drop it there. He can go back and get another one, drop it there. That was the reason we had talked about doing the boots, because it was so time consuming just to tow one car. If they boot them, they just put the boot on and go, and then the person will call them and say, hey, I'm back here. They pay their fee, they get their boot off, and they go home, and hopefully never come back and do it again because of what they went through, punishment for the crime, so.
From what I hear y'all say, they're gonna have to have a lot of set of boots then.
Well, the boots, a lot of cities are doing that. They boot them, and it's certainly much quicker. And the thing is, I don't want to do that. I don't want people getting tickets. I don't want people getting their cars towed, but we want them to comply, and the people that live there want them to comply. And, if the parking lot's full, then you can't park there. Go to the state park, but again, they don't want to go to the state park because they can't take their dogs and they can't take their booze. So, because we allow, pets can go down there, they can take their booze, so they come to our parking areas, So there again, there are probably some other ways to address it too. You outlaw booze and pets on the public beaches on Alligator Point, then they probably won't come anywhere. But
I had a guided tour with one of the deputies on Saturday afternoon. I took my car, and he got in my car so nobody knew he was there. And then he took me and showed me all these key accesses. And it's not just signage and issues like that. It's just this massive humanity in some areas of Alligator Point that just simply exercises dysfunction in behavior and the lack of situational awareness. We were driving down Alligator Drive, watching humanity walk along the right-of-way there, paying no attention to traffic, its relationship to where they were on the road, etc. And by the way, we had a lady who was hit on a bicycle about 2 weeks ago on Alligator Drive. And I understand that she suffered a punctured lung and I think a fractured shoulder. And you can see there's Alligator Drive, and it, with cars and the right-of-ways, all of that is a crowded, narrow situation, not to mention how it's accentuated when people start to arrive in masses. And for safety and for health, we must take responsibility. So I want to continue to refresh that motion that I made relative to having.
Let me ask one last thing. So the county ordinance was written probably how long ago, Michael?
Sheriff, it's been 4, 5, 6 years ago, maybe.
Well, and here's the thing too. Maybe we can address that here today too. It calls for a $25 fine. I mean, that's, like I said, they'll pay $25 to go to the beach. The fine really needs to meet the times.
And that's what I was trying to get recognized by the chair.
Go ahead.
Two things. One, we probably should consider increasing the fine, and we can also examine authorizing the use of a boot on an amended ordinance. But right now, we don't have any authorization in the ordinance for an immobilizing device. It's only towing and a civil infraction of $25 for the first offense, and then the second offense is punishable as a second-degree misdemeanor. So if we're going to look at other enforcement options such as a boot or increasing the fee, we would need to amend the ordinance. And I don't think we're in a position to do that here today. I think we're kind of stuck with what we've got today with the existing ordinance, which provides for towing and also the civil infractions.
So we just need a motion for him to authorize him for the towing, right?
I don't think there's any motion that's needed.
We'll just change the signage. Then we'll change the signage, and
Signage
What about, what's it gonna take to change the ordinance to increase the amount of the fine? I think that's.
Board's standard operating procedures, they authorize me to schedule a public hearing.
Okay.
I'll schedule it, and then we hold the public hearing.
Okay.
At this point, with the limitations with the advertising in the newspaper, you're probably looking about this time next month.
Okay.
We might be able to get it done for the first meeting.
Okay.
In June.
I think that would be helpful as well. I mean, the more tools we have in our toolbox, the easier it is for us to do our job. And maybe once, we do some of these things and people know that the consequences are going to be much more severe than what they have in the past, maybe they will think twice about it. I mean, we do have a lot of, the majority of these people that are coming to Alligator Point are day trippers, and a lot of them are folks in college. I mean, that was, I think last weekend we had a truck coming off the S curve, hit a utility pole, broke the pole, and it was two young guys. And, so again, they had been down there, not doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, if you're driving the speed limit, you're not going to lose control and hit a utility pole. So.
Okay. Well, what I need today, I need a motion to set up a public hearing.
We have a motion on the floor, it's gotta be addressed first.
Okay, well,
So,
Mr. Pope, I would recommend that you withdraw the motion. The ordinance is already.
It is in
effect.
effect.
So
Okay.
the motion would not really do anything to add to the ordinance. We're
But
talking
it'll-
about starting a process to amend the ordinance.
Yes.
To address some of these issues.
later on, okay. And what about the booting issue?
We can't do that
We
right
cannot
now.
do that right now, okay. But we'll follow it up. to
Could we talk about that when we come back for the special?
absolutely.
Okay, then
Right,
we can do
there you
that
go.
same, okay.
So, on balance then, you do have the authority for,
Right,
the
we're good
tow
with
truck.
that, we're good,
You're
we're
okay
good. We'll
with
do the
that?
special meeting on the other two things, and we're
Okay.
good unless there's any other questions.
Okay.
Do you withdraw your motion?
I do withdraw my motion, yeah, thank you. Appreciate you
okay,
doing that.
I need a motion for a public hearing.
So moved.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Massey.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That part passed unanimous. Okay, now we need authorization for the sheriff to get some signs done ASAP.
For us, yes.
Or do we, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, the ordinance is in place, already has a requirement in the ordinance for signage to be placed. So I don't
Okay.
think, again, the board has already enacted the ordinance, which authorizes towing. The ordinance that you adopted has a requirement for signage to be placed.
We'll just send you the bill.
Okay.
Okay.
You're
Go
good,
get the sign. Go
Mr.
get
Chairman,
the
the board
sign.
is good with the signs. He just has to go to work with Fonda. Fonda will get, the sign designer to print the signs, and they'll have them ready before Friday.
He just got to enhance them.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
So we're good.
There's a big weekend coming up, right?
Yeah, it is, and
Very big weekend.
we, got the white trash bash, so if y'all would like to go out to that, Captain Coulter will be glad to take you. So,
Everything we did was countywide. This also reflects St. George Island as well, not necessarily the intensity of Alligator Point, but he
No,
gets
it-
standard
it
practice,
could-
right?
It was kinda wide to go
Yeah.
from Appalachia
yeah.
Okay, good.
to,
Y'all, any other questions about that? I appreciate y'all working with me on that. Like I said, last thing deputies want to be doing is down there writing tickets, trust me. I mean, I don't even, I don't like doing it either, and it's, it's just a real waste of their time when there's other things, we could be spending more time doing.
I don't blame them, cause, that can get real serious, cause if you tied up down there, you leaving. the rest of-
Exactly.
you leaving
Well,
the whole
and I
part
want
of
to
the
give,
county
a
wide
little accolades to some of the command staff at the sheriff's office, like Major Carroll and Captain Webb, Captain Coulter, Captain Martina, Lieutenant Segree. Those guys don't get overtime. They're at-will employees. I mean, they work 50, 60, 70 hours a week. They don't get any more money for it. And they come out on the weekends to supplement the guys that are on, and gals that are on the shift. So I just appreciate that, and you know, I don't know if y'all know that, but they're not getting paid. You see some of these guys out on the weekends or at night, they're not getting paid. They're on straight salary. They're not getting overtime. They're not getting comp time, and that's just their dedication to Franklin County. And I'm proud of that, and I appreciate, you know, what those guys are doing, because it really helps solve a lot of the problems that we're having. So that have the extra folks out there doing stuff, and so it means a lot. And you know, they go to the island, you know, because that's where a lot of stuff's going on. And then the traffic is so heavy. We had, you know, Jim Ward works full-time traffic. He was out on the weekend. He'll probably be out this weekend as well. But it was really a lot of traffic and a lot of crazy drivers. People are just, I don't know, they are driving crazy around here. So
I tell you the truth, Shad, that dedication on group is so fun.
That's true. Anything else I can do for y'all? Y'all have any other issues you need to talk to me about? If not, I do have one last thing. This morning I was talking to Secretary Beshears about another issue, and I asked him about the vacation rentals, and he just wanted me to assure everybody, like he's been talking to Michael, that he is working on it, giving it his all. You know, everybody here knows he's a hard worker for, you know, he likes Franklin County. They have a home here, and he assured me that he was on top of it, and that he was doing everything he could to fast track it. Okay, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shay.
Do you want to take a break, Mr. Chairman? And I'm going to disconnect the callers from on the conference call.
Okay. 5-minute break.
Everyone on the conference call, we're going to end the conference call now, the live stream.
Flash Franklin County, it's census time. Everyone's counted. I'm Linda Gibson, and I count.
Although our senior centers and libraries are closed temporarily because of COVID-19, Linda Gibson and her friends want to make sure everyone in Franklin County responds to the census.
Everyone count. Please be counted. My name is Gladys Gatlin.
If you or someone you know has a tablet or a laptop, now you can go to my2020census.gov and put in your street address to be able to complete the census. It's now easier than ever. That's my2020census.gov.
Everyone counts. So everyone in Franklin County, please do the census. My name is Sherlyn Clark, and I count.
Tiffin, and welcome to my store. I've been in the furniture business in East Point for over 25 years, and this is our fabulous store. Look at all these accessory pieces we have. And these umbrella fabrics are just terrific. This is a good example. We probably have 50 sofas on the floor in umbrellas. They're so advanced in their fabric, they won't fade, and they're just real easy to clean. You need to clean them with bleach. This is a product we've been selling for over 20 years. It's called Polywood. It has marine grade stainless steel screws, and you can't wear it out. It's guaranteed 20 years outdoors. I've been in print for 50 years, and I do all kind of art. And we're gonna just show you a lot of our paintings and prints. And my daughter Lacey has these prints. We got some stack paintings of St. George, and we'll show you those in Apalachicola, showing different businesses and places of interest. And we have those little prints that you can come in. Great souvenirs for tourists. As Royce flew in on his drone, he flew over our big log out front. His name's Big Charles, and Mr. Golden pulled that log 5 or 6 years ago out of the river, 30 or 40 feet deep, and it was buried in the mud, so it's the best example of any piece of cypress that's ever come out of the Apalachicola River. This is an example of how these logs end up. This log we've dated is around 2,000 years old. It takes us 5 years to dry these logs. We have to air dry them, split them to get it to this stage, so they're magnificent. We just love these things. One other thing we do here at Tiffin's, we offer a complete line of window treatments from home renovations and shutters, a big wholesaler. So we got everything from shutters to the latest things here, window treatments. Here we have Audra, she's our store manager, does a terrific job. Amy, who sells and does all of our technology. Angie, who's an interior designer. And these girls can come to your home and we can give you advice. You know what to do, there's no charge for it. And then we have Bobby, who's our table maker, and he also helps a little delivering furniture. And we got Nate and Glenn, who deliver furniture that never break anything. They're just wonderful. They've been with me for many, many years. They're just great guys. So we're gonna give you the best possible service at Tiffin's.
Come inside and check us out. We have something for everyone. Hello, welcome to Apalachicola Chocolate and Coffee Company. From our handmade chocolates, fudges, delicious old-fashioned caramel, pies, cookies, including the largest Greek wedding and macaroons you've ever seen. We also make the Italian-style ice cream called gelato, which is adult tested and kid approved. We have a full menu coffee bar, from lattes and cappuccinos to some of our signature drinks, such as our affogatos and black bottom coffees. And don't forget about the famous crafted coffee blend. We also roast our coffee beans on site, so it's super fresh. Don't like coffee? We also have teas and lemonade. If you're hungry, we serve breakfast sandwiches on our homemade bread, or we have New York water bagels. Or try the biscuits and gravy that are to die for. We also have lunch sandwiches and soups. We do carry some gluten-free and vegan options as well. Hear what some locals have to say.
I love the biscuits and gravy.
You know something? The coffee here is great.
I love the ice cream of the chocolate company.
So come check us out and stay a while. In here, it's just like Cheers, where everybody knows your name. Oh, hey, Dan.
Can't be near the beautiful beaches of Franklin County? Tune in to Forgotten Coast TV, Franklin County's local cable channel. Watch shows and videos about our beautiful area, including our beaches, museums, shops, and more. Watch it wherever you are on Roku and Amazon TV. Also, make sure you like us on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube. Forgotten Coast TV is Beachin' TV. Tune in to Forgotten Coast TV on Mediacom, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and watch Forgotten Coast Cooking with Kathy Corfanti. Kathy invites you into her home to learn how to cook some of her favorite recipes. She will also tell you funny stories about her life and preparing meals. You'll also see special guest appearances by her friends and local chefs. It's Forgotten Coast Cooking with Kathy Corfanti only on Forgotten Coast TV.
Newsflash, Franklin County, it's census time. Everyone's counted. I'm Linda Gibson, and I count.
Although our senior centers and libraries are closed temporarily because of COVID-19, Linda Gibson and her friends want to make sure everyone in Franklin County responds to the census.
Everyone count. Please be counted. My name is Gladys Gatlin.
If you or someone you know has a tablet or a laptop, now you can go to my2020census.gov and put in your street address to be able to complete the census. It's now easier than ever. That's my2020census.gov.
Everyone counts. So everyone in Franklin County, please do the census. My name is Sherilyn Clark, and I count.
Since January of this year. For the budget for us, as you know, the state did not put any money in this. The feds did not put any money in this. Only the county was responsible for putting money into the count this year. You put in $4,500. The committee raised $3,000 in private funds. You see those from Waste Pro, Garlic Engineering, and Dewberry. And we did a grant from the National League of Cities. And we got $4,500 for that. There were 700 applicants. We were selected 200 out of the 200 who were winners, and that is the money we're going to spend going forward. The next page, we talk about electronic media efforts. I just want you to see where your money went, the money that we raised from the privates and the money you gave. We did 17 separate radio scripts. We recorded them, I wrote them, you participated in those. We had 1,200 paid airings, and they're scheduled to end in late May. Michael Allen at Worcester Radio was wonderful. He edited your work, and if you heard yourself, you can tell he did better than we did when we were recording you. We also wrote and recorded 6 video YouTube commercials. Royce did one, and 5 others were done by my son, so that didn't cost us anything. We also created a website click-through for every county office so that anybody who went on any website could click through. I have to tell you, not every county website put it on there, but I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. We also created this $25 cash prize contest for the month of May. If you answered the census and sent that your name in and the name of your county commissioner in, then you could be drawn, you could win a $25 gift card. So far, what is today, the 19th, no one has submitted an application. Okay, print media, you'll notice that David printed an article every week since January. We wrote those in the committee, and he printed them. We actually bought one ad, but the Census Bureau indicated since this area geographically never had any money spent by the Census Bureau, the closest community was Pensacola. They had a media buy there. So we asked them if they would put some money in local media here, and they said they would consider it, and I haven't heard any more.
We made over 1,500 yard signs, posters, banners, and flyers, and literally thousands and thousands of flyers like this. We've distributed them in every food bank, every food distribution, every school lunch. We've been now with the COVID testing. We did all of those sites with these flyers. We put them everywhere we could think of. To encourage people, we actually paid to send 2,000 direct mail postcards to post office boxes because the Bureau doesn't send mail to post office boxes. So we had to notify those people that they could quit waiting for a letter. They should just go ahead and fill out the census. Miscellaneous activities, the Census Bureau did provide promotional items like water bottles, tote bags, lip balm, coffee cups, and fans. Those were given out at events that we had prior to the COVID-19. They are now sending them to places we identify where food is being distributed. We also had special event presentations before COVID-19. We had some tables set up at different events, even like the Christmas parade on St. George Island. Now we're not able to do that. We created 20 neighborhood census assistance centers where you could go and use the internet, get assistance to fill out the census. Those were all closed down because of COVID. Now we're using your EOC system to send out alerts to remind people about every other week. All of that effort and all that we've done, if you look on this next page of self-response rates, you'll see the bad news. Now this was as of May 14th. I checked before Michael and I drove over today. It's about maybe 2, 3, 4/10% higher. So the graph doesn't even need to be changed from last week. The nation is right at 60% at 59.6. Florida is right behind it with 57.1. Franklin County is at 28.6%. You got 1 person in 4 is answering the census. Appalachia is doing better. Now this is North Appalachia. The way the census tract is drawn, it is Highway 98 and north. That part of Appalachia is doing pretty well, 46.1%. The next census tract is East Point and West Carabel. That's at 38.5%. The next one is south of Appalachia, south of Highway 98. And St. George Island, 28.7%. Lanark to Alligator Point is 16.9%. So if this were to end today, and we don't know what magic formula the Census Bureau uses, they won't tell us, but let's just say they look at these numbers and say, this is your rate of federal dollars coming back to your population. That means, according to this, we will get about a quarter, almost 30% of what you have gotten the past 10 years. As you'll remember, the census count affects your schools, your roads, your bridges, your fire departments, your hospitals, your health care, Medicare, Medicaid, early childhood education, special ed, vocational ed. Every walk of life in Franklin County is affected by this. Here's some of the challenges that you face in Franklin County. The 2020 census was the first time the Bureau ever said we're going to make you answer online, and that's pretty much what they've done. They rely heavily on online response. They calculated about 85% of the population would respond online. Well, let me tell you, these numbers that I showed you, you turn back there and you look at the response rate, almost everybody who has responded online. Because the Bureau didn't send paper copies to us, so nobody got those until just the last week or so. And so when we created the ability to have census assistance centers, contemplating people wouldn't get a paper ballot, paper census, that we would take care of that. Well, we couldn't do that. So we know that in this county there's a very low rate of in-home internet access, and I know Michael has it on agenda some more about this. The most important thing, in my opinion, that you can do for the future of Franklin County is to get the internet high speed everywhere, because that's what divides this county. That's why the people that have internet, they've answered it. They're answering it. It's the people that don't have internet in their home that are not answering it. So we got to do something about that divide. Then another thing was the Census Bureau relies on street addresses. It turns out, we found out that there's a heavy population of Franklin County residents that don't use street addresses, they use post office boxes. Well, we didn't realize that until just a few weeks ago, and that's when we mailed out those 2,000 direct mail pieces saying, don't keep waiting. You're never going to get a letter telling you to answer the census because you have a post office box. So we have a high rate of second homes in this county. Just St. George Island, just try to think about these numbers. I won't give you countywide, just St. George Island, 2,400 homes on St. George Island, according to the property appraiser. 340 of those 2,400 are homesteaded. Only 340 out of 2,400 homes are homesteaded. 800, according to DBPR and the Department of Revenue, are short-term rentals. 800 short-term rentals on St. George Island. Well, there are still 1,300 homes. They're not homesteaded, not rentals. Who lives in those houses? Well, we don't know. Are they second homes? Are those people live in Atlanta and they come down here 2 or 3 times a year? We don't know. But you know what? Those are counted against us. Those are houses that are counted as part of our population, but there's nobody there to respond. And we don't know, we won't know how many of those houses are hurting us. But that's just one little example of how in a county where you don't know who lives there, you can't be counted. And frankly, that's what the census is about, counting the county. And they keep telling us, well, you should know who lives there, but we don't. So, and then finally, of course, this COVID-19 really hurt us. We already know that many Spanish families have left because the oystering shut down, because they were not able to work. They've gone, maybe they'll come back, but it's too late for them if they come back. And here's the other remark, this is so weird. I told Michael, he said, I have to share this. The trust in government at all levels is so low that there are actually websites dedicated to telling people, do not respond to the census. Do not respond to the census, because that local government doesn't need any more money. Now, think about this. That money that comes back to us is money you pay in income tax. It has nothing to do with the census. The census is our way of drawing the money we've all paid back to the county. And yet here's people on the internet, big websites, fully, I mean, really sophisticated websites with huge numbers of followers, and they're saying, don't give the government that information. They don't need that information. The county doesn't need any more money. So that's what we're facing. So I'm here to tell you, my term is up. When the committee was created, I was asked last November, and we were planning to work until June. Well, that's when we thought the census was going to end in July. Well, now the census is extending itself until October 31. And they are asking us to continue our complete count committees and continue our efforts to raise more money to continue what we're doing until October 31. And let me just tell you, I'm a retiree old school teacher from St. George Island. Nobody's listening to me. We need you people. I need you guys to do something big to get their attention. I mean, Michael's asked every county unit that works for you to put on their website a click-through, to put on their messages that they need to answer the census. We've asked them, did you get all your employees in your department to answer the census? We haven't heard from anybody. I asked David at the hospital. I've asked the health Department of Health. I asked the sheriff. I've asked everybody. Please get your own employees. I mean, just think about that population. These people work for you. All of those county employees either work for constitutional officers or you. I need you to make a statement. Today on your agenda, you heard from every county agency, and not one mentioned the census. And the future of their agencies relies on the population count. I mean, the library, she talks about everything she's opening up and doing. She never mentioned the census. Is she going to let people come in there? Are they going to advertise and say, our internet's back up, you can come in here and answer? You know, David, I've asked him, can you make sure all 83 employees at the hospital and their families have answered the census? I need you guys to put some pressure on them because nobody's listening to us anymore. We can continue with what we're doing. We've got $4,500 coming in any day now from the National League of Cities, and you can spend that money on more radio and more billboard, whatever you want, but you've got to help us because this county is going to suffer for the next decade. Thank you.
Thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you, Ms.
Thanks.
Pat.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I can sense frustration in her voice. I can see the frustration in her face. And I want you to know that we appreciate the job you're doing.
Yes.
I won't say trying to do, I would say doing.
Thank you.
And I don't know if it's the COVID effect. Everybody's preoccupied with something else, trying to feed their families, wondering how they're going to pay their house rents. I mean, there's just so much going on. And number two, it makes me wonder when you have to go online to fill out the census, which we've never had to do. I mean, technology's advanced, and I'm wondering how much the government don't want you to fill out your census and get these federal dollars back. I mean, it makes you wonder, with everything going on, you know, you're not making it, I guess they think they're making it easy for people to fill out a census, but you'd be surprised how many people don't have a computer in their home.
I've tried to tell them.
I mean, you would be surprised. A lot of people do, a lot of people don't. If you look at the schools of what they had to do with laptops to do virtual schooling for these kids that's been out of school for so long, find out how many laptops they've had to issue to the children because there's no computer in their house. So it makes me wonder if the federal government, and quite frankly, I don't ever remember census committees. The census people had their own workers that come in and went door to door and done all this stuff. Now they're putting everything on the backs of the locals. And again, I want to reiterate that I think you're doing the best you can. And I want to give my thanks for the effort that you put out there. And, you know, I'll do what I can do, but if they don't listen to you and they don't look at the signs, I mean, nobody's participating. I agree with you with the library because everybody says the library is important because people need to access computers. Well, they ought to have big signs on the door or on the windows or a big yard sign there where you go in the library. Please fill out your census forms while you're online. I mean, yeah, there's things that should be done, and I think we can get that message across. But the libraries are temporarily open. They don't let so many people in, all because of COVID.
I know.
And I'm glad to see that they did extend the deadline, or we wouldn't even be talking about this. It'd be over. Yeah. So, but there has to be, and there's been a lot of mailings going out. I've heard people say that I finally got the paper form. Maybe I can do it now. So I think you'll see the numbers come up some. How much, I don't know. But do you have there used to be a figure, a dollar figure that was attributed to each person that answered the census. Do you have that information?
$14,500.
Well, that's what I hear too. I'd like to make a motion, Michael, that we advertise this in the paper and what it's going to cost this county if these people don't fill out this paperwork, and direct staff to write us up a good advertisement. If you had to buy a whole page ad to try to let the people know what it's going to cost this county per person if they don't fill this census out. I mean, I think that's one way we can encourage to try to help Ms. Pat reach her goal and bring these percentages up. And I'm going to put that in the form of a motion.
Second. And Miss Pat's had it on out there. It's 14.5. She put it. It's full.
Yeah, we don't need a. We don't
No,
need
I mean,
an ad of
she's
6
tried
by
it.
6.
It's been
We
out
need
there.
our ad, Michael. I think it's money. We're going to spend $4,500 to try to help her. I think we can buy a full page ad and put this information out there.
Yeah.
Your education's going to suffer. Your fire departments, your hospital, all this needs to be. And you can get with Miss Pat, and I'm sure she may be willing to help us draft that. And let's do a full page newspaper ad to try to see if we can't turn this thing around before it's too late. Because we as community leaders are going to be the ones that's going to be faced with the shortfall.
Yep.
And how we address the needs of our constituency here in Franklin County.
And let's make that $14,500 understandable. Is that $14,500
Per person.
per person per month, or
No,
is
no,
that, how is
per
that working?
year.
Per year?
And that's the amount that that this county can earn per person.
Per person per
And
year.
For example,
Good.
The grant that would build us a hospital
Yes.
is probably calculated in that, or the roads that we would build. You know, that's what your capacity is. Some communities, it's much, much less, but in a rural community, there are many programs set aside just for rurals. But just to follow up on Commissioner Parrish, if I may, another disadvantage is that the Census Bureau had created telephone lines so that if you couldn't get online, you could call in. Well, let me just tell you, I've tried half a dozen times. Michael and I have tried. We have never gotten to the point. It always is, they're, hold on, and then they disconnect. It's a very busy time. Call back when it's convenient. I mean, they don't have their call center staffed up because of COVID. Now, why they didn't use a distributed call center where everybody didn't have to come together and then they used to have a telephone number you could call and get a paper copy. Now they don't do that. You cannot ask for a paper copy. You have to wait for it to be delivered. So, for a county that has such low internet access, the fallback plans don't fit with our needs. That's why I'd love for you in every meeting that you have from now on, and between now and October, is ask for every department to give you what they've done for the census. At least mention it. So all those people out there watching will be reminded that the census is the most important thing they can do for the next decade for this county and its people.
And why don't each of us as commissioners do a public service announcement relative to this census? Would that be
I
appropriate?
think we just did that on live stream.
Right, we did, yeah, but
You go,
I'm
Commissioner.
thinking Oyster Radio, et cetera, as well.
I think we should have done it at the beginning of the meeting when there were more people watching the live stream.
Sure, we
I
can do
I
it
think
again.
we're up there still with a number, sir.
I hope so, because this is a very important issue
Yeah.
for us as county leaders, but also as a county government as a whole, in trying to provide service and trying to leverage these federal dollars. If they don't answer this census, then we're going to be,
That's right.
we're already going to be in a hole for next year. I
Yeah.
think everybody here is aware of that. But this goes for the next 10 years. I've always said, I feel for the people of Bay County, how many people they lost after Hurricane Michael. Then here comes the census. Well, it's 10 years. You can't go back and re-elevate your numbers 3 years from now.
That's right.
Should people move back into Bay County. It's here and it's now. Talking to some of the commissioners, they're hopeful that over in Bay County they can reevaluate those numbers. But if they don't, you realize how much money they've lost just in people leaving their area?
Yeah.
On top of the expense of Hurricane Michael and all the losses there. So this census is very important, not only for them, but for us, and maybe we can try to get the message out a lot better.
I said it earlier in the meeting, government trying to shut us down.
I done a message the first of the year.
It's actually playing again because they let me know that they are hiring now in this county, and they are fingerprinting people. So that's the next stage of hiring. And they are still not planning on sending anybody door to door. What they are doing is taking a paper questionnaire and dropping it off at the door of certain houses.
The wind gonna blow that away.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
I was going to say, and also during our breaks today, during the live stream, we have also been running census commercials.
Yep.
Oh, have
We
you?
have. Yes, we have.
For the public to know. So.
Yeah, you really, I hope you see those. Part of our hope is that we will spend this $4,500 on paid media to get those YouTube videos out on Instagram and Facebook and other locations where people can actually see them. They're all with local people. They're all local voices. They're all about Franklin County. They are specifically for you guys, and we hope that you'll enjoy them because you'll recognize some faces.
Yeah.
You know,
Commissioner,
I realize.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm also thinking of an avenue of accountability that's universal for all county employees here in Franklin County, and that is the payroll system. Realizing a lot of it is electronic and so on, but we all got a payroll envelope that at least was a receipt. And I'm just wondering if a census document can be applied, put in payroll envelopes for every county employee to be sure that they physically got it. Is there something like that that could happen?
One thing that we can do is we can actually put at the bottom of the check stub, we can actually put the web address. You know, if you have not completed your census form, you know, please go to, and encourage our departments to do that. So that is something that can be done.
Okay.
Alrighty.
For county and,
we got to move on.
Excuse me, sir, you know, again, I really want to thank Pat for all she's done.
Yes.
Because I'm gonna be honest with you guys, myself, the staff that you have, no way we could accomplish not even half of what she accomplished, you know? And I know June is coming up, and, you know, that was our agreement. So, you know, what I'm gonna do is put Evelyn Ramirez, she is the partnership specialist, the U.S. Census Bureau. I'm gonna have her on the next meeting agenda, so she can address some of the issues we're having, like the phone, and when are they gonna start door to door, stuff like that. I'll have her on the next agenda for her to address this board about some of the problems that was discussed today, and some of their solutions and what they're looking for the county to do in this last phase of the census. But Pat, once again, thank you and your committee so much. Again, I know Courtney kind of really kicked in here the last couple of months and really helped a lot, but without you and your guys, that, you know, none of this would have been worse off from where we are, you know. And I also got to thank Mike for his patience with Pat, because I'm sure there are days that he probably didn't want to live with her because of what was going on and the frustration that Commissioner Parrish saw at the podium. He probably saw it 100 times over. But I got to thank you guys so much for all you've done.
Yep.
All right? And
yeah, Ms. Pat, we appreciate you. You're doing a good job. We're going to get them numbers up, though.
Yeah.
I got a plan. No, we ain't voted yet. Let me ask you a question. Would you amend your motion that we send a letter to the city and the both cities, add that to it in the school?
I'm in my motion.
Okay, could you amend that? Send a letter to the schools and the both cities and tell them what we're doing and everybody.
And if you didn't have a second, I'll make that second.
We got it.
Got it. Okay.
All right, y'all ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
oh, Commissioner, guess who I have on my cell phone?
Passed unanimous.
Representative Schoaf. How you doing, sir? So I have you on my speakerphone during county commission meeting. Would you please explain to the county commission where we are right now?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, fellas. Just got word a few minutes ago from
Secretary Bashir's, that the governor has given the green light, and he's given the green light, and so 7 counties are allowed to reopen, and Franklin is one of those.
All right.
Details will be posted shortly on DBPR's website, but the message is it's time to reopen those vacation rentals.
Thank you. More information to come. So, our representative, so I just look on the website, or you think they're going to have some email from either one, his office or some mass email telling us when, exactly when, and under what conditions?
It's my understanding that they will update the website with the official news, and as soon as they do, I will capture that and text it to you and the chairman and any other members that would like it.
Representative, thank you so much for this good news. You just don't know what you've done today. This long meeting that we're all hungry at. We've been here since 9. So yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and thank each of you for swiftly moving and supporting the tourism industry in Franklin County. And I'm just thankful to be able to work with you.
Thank you, Representative Schultz.
All right. Talk to you soon, sir. Thank you so much. Good day. Okay. Bye-bye.
There it is. All right. All right. The big thing that came in, folks.
Okay.
Looks like we're gonna be open.
Yeah.
We'll know something later on.
I believe that statement Commissioner Massey made earlier in the meeting worked.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Good job. Okay, next on the agenda, we voted, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Pat, we're gonna help you. Next on the agenda will be the RFO bid opening.
We're going to open bids for 2 projects. We'll do them one after the other. Well, first one is Tallahassee Street. This is a funding from the FDOT. I'm sure I don't have my agenda with me, but anyway, I'm sure it's DOT money. Yeah. This is Tallahassee Street sidewalk improvement. There are 3 bids. First is M of Tallahassee. M of Tallahassee. Hang on. I'm so cold here, I can't get the
And
thing.
then becomes M of
Yeah,
Tallahassee.
M, it's the letter M, the letter M.
I know that.
And I'm sure they're based out of Tallahassee, although I know they have a house on Alligator Point.
Yep. Marina.
Yep. Blah, blah, blah. This is again sidewalk project. Bid bond, I just want to make sure that, this is a standardized, this is a DOT form, so I just don't want to read out the wrong number. Okay, looks like this is the number here. Okay, total bid, $272,134.
272.
134.
134.
Okay.
Where they from?
Tallahassee.
Bid one?
You bid one, yes, sir. Next is American Design Engineering. American Design Engineering. And I don't know where they're from. We'll find out in a minute here. Weston, Florida. This is whatever the company's name is, American Design Engineering from Weston, Florida, which I think is down by Orlando. Bid form signed, total bid $411,408. 411,408. And they have a bid bond. And the last one is Hale Contracting from Midway, Florida. Hale Contracting from Midway, Florida.
Midway.
Okay, and the bid bond's on top, so I got the bid bond right there. And their total bid is $822,553.
They must got some gold in
there. Yeah, $822,553. $822,553. That's a big range there.
We ain't gonna be able to do that.
Well, I recommend this, turn this over to our engineering firm for review and recommendation.
You reckon they're bidding on the
All right,
same thing?
y'all,
So that's,
you
that's,
need a
that's
motion?
why we need to see.
Turn it on,
Yes,
we
that's
need a
a
motion
different-
on that?
Yep, yep.
But these bids reflect a revised length of this project.
Should, yes.
Because it,
Well, Commissioner, everybody should bid on the same thing.
yeah, sure, yeah,
I can't.
I knew that.
So what, do we need to name
Yeah,
the
the
committee
length
or
has
just
been
make?
No, in this case, the engineering firm who, there's not a committee, it'd be our engineering firm who put the bid together.
Okay,
Okay, well, turn it over to them, so we don't need no motion.
No.
okay.
Well, yeah, make a motion, I would say make a motion, turn over the engineering firm for
Well,
recommendation.
I need a motion on the, turn it over to.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Parrish. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously.
Now, the next item, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, is a bid opening for taxiway and runway improvements at the airport. This is FDOT money, and when we open these things, we'll turn this over to Avcon, because I know they put the bid package together. So this is airport improvements. The first one will be Kobo, K-O-B-O, utility company from Sandwich, Massachusetts. And this is, when they do lighting, these are gonna be big national companies, because lighting is FAA standards. So this is a Kobo utility company out of Sandwich, Massachusetts.
Sandwich. They got a bid form, whatever, you know what it is. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure they do, Commissioner, but this is such a big packet, I'm going to,
Well, the engineer make
yeah, I just want to read the number to you, and we'll defer to the engineer to make sure all the documents are complete, because this is federal money.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, total bid amount, $1,081,597. $1,081,597.
Okay.
So 1,081,597. And again, it looks like there's a bid bond here, but this is a very thick document, so I don't want to pretend like I see everything in there. Thank you. Next one is TCA Electrical Contractors from Omega, Georgia. TCA Electrical Contractors from Omega, Georgia. And these are 100% funded by your federal tax dollars and state tax dollars. There's no local match required.
So these are census funds potentially.
There you go. Good point.
There you go.
Okay. Was a big range here. All right. This one is $464,385. $464,385. That's a big range.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Big difference. I don't know. But that's why Adcon, that's what they get paid the money to figure if
See, they got that thing right?
Yeah, I know, that's a big difference, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman. And I did see the bid bond, but we'll turn these over to Adcon. The last one then is Southeast Site Services from Gray, Georgia. Southeast Site Services from Gray, Georgia.
Gray, Georgia. Never heard of that.
They glued it in there. Okay. All right, we're all over the place here. This one is $848,500. $848,500.
$848.
$848,500.
500. Okay.
We're all over the map on this one, so. I recommend we turn those over to Avcon for, make sure that the bids are complete and accurate, and for a recommendation.
So moved.
I got a motion on the
Second.
floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Massey. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous. Okay.
Okay. Mr.
Next.
Chairman? Oh, I'm sorry.
we got
The
a
clerk.
Next, Ms. Johnson don't have a report, so next on the agenda will be Restore Coordinator, Mr. Pierce.
Yes,
Adam
sir.
Pierce.
Yes, sir. You've done one of my items, but the first item there, item 19, board approval for a land lease at the airport for Mr. Robert Casper. The payment will be $1,800 annually for just a land lease. He's leasing about 1/3 of an acre of land with a 3% increase annually for 20 years. Mr. Casper will build a hangar for his use at his expense on the parcel. At the end of the 20-year lease, the building will become the property of the county. At that time, Mr. Casper would have the choice of renegotiating the lease. The county is leasing him a parcel next to another private hangar leased by Mr. Pete Berger. Mr. Jason Puckett, airport manager, and Mr. John Collins, Avcon engineers, have approved the location and size of the parcel to be leased. Mr. Puckett and I recommend the lease be approved by the board contingent upon Mr. Schuer's review.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
Thank you. We've done item number 20, and I'll briefly go through the next 3 items. Inform the board, the Triumph Board, as I think I've told earlier, on April 30th, did approve the county's $1.59 million grant for application for a fuel farm at the airport and install a backup generator. The Triumph Board received comments from the Triumph Chief Economist, Dr. Rick Harper, and Triumph Executive Director, Ms. Susan Skelter, and asked me some questions during the meeting before approving the project. The Triumph Board saw this project as a benefit to the region. None of the details, no job requirements, just a general benefit to the region. The staff was directed to work with the county to create a term sheet which is list the requirements for receiving the funds. So in the near future, the county will be receiving documents for Triumph. I'm sure there'll be something in there, but we are not required to create jobs, which has been a big hang up at the airport. So, you know, we need the fuel farm to keep the airport functioning and to make us a mega center for recovery. So it's a good thing for the airport. Next item, inform the board that in April, last month, FEMA consultants constituted a bi-weekly conference call on the status of Alligator Drive. In fact, there's another one this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Commissioner Bolt, if you want to go at the EOC, if you're in town, you can go at the EOC and join us there, and you can hear directly how much progress we're making.
2 o'clock?
2 o'clock. I have kept the board informed of the progress, so I have no additional information at this time. The county's engineering team, being Mr. Clay Kennedy of Dewberry Engineers and Mr. Joe Morrow, MRD Associates, they're our coastal engineers, have assisted me in providing FEMA consultants with additional information when requested. FDEP recognized that Alligator Drive was not going to be completed during the time the existing emergency order was in place. So FDEP has issued an emergency order specific to Alligator Drive, allowing the county until November 2021 to complete rebuilding the road. I hope it does not take that long. I provided the clerk's office a copy of this emergency final order. We have another conference call today. We're trying to get this this environmental assessment done, Commissioner Bolt, and I won't even go into the details. Okay. Ridiculous. Number 2, last one. Update on East Point Channel, 2 Mile Channel. The consortium grant application is complete and waiting for consortium approval on June 10th at the board meeting, the consortium board meeting on June 10th, which I'm sure will be teleconference. The Corps of Engineers has contacted me to assure me the memorandum of agreement between the Corps and the county for receiving the consortium funding is going through the review process in Atlanta. There are no issues at this time. Initially, the Corps had the county attorney as a signature on the agreement, but I thought it'd be better if the chairman would be the signature.
I concur.
I didn't think you wanted to be guaranteeing $4 million in payment. And that is the end of my report.
I don't think he wants to sign that either.
Okay, now.
I'll sign it for a dredge.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Let's
You
talk
they
about
ain't
what
got
guarantee
no,
really
you don't know
means.
about what date that's gonna be, cause
No, sir. I'm sure we won't see the draft. We ought to see the MOU draft in June, next month. But as far as the dredging goes, Mr. Chairman, I'm sure we're still on, and I'm gonna move back a month to September. You know, it's nothing in the government is happening fast because this virus has just slowed everything down.
well, see, the reason I was asking the guide fishermen having problems getting in and out, and with not only the channels, with these boat ramps and stuff.
Yeah.
Boat ramps over in the East Point, they having trouble, so
I'm hoping that, you know, this is nothing that's part of the core plan, but I'm hoping when they're over there, we can slurp out a little bit of the East Point boat ramp while they're there.
That would be really nice.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna go right by it, and same with,
Out here at
that same,
Waterfall.
same
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, they can swing around there and get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure
they
they
need to
can.
get both, all of them, because people, ain't too much work going, it's not too much work going on, and
Yeah.
this here hindering them more.
Right.
Anybody got anything else for Mr. Pierce?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next on the agenda will be Mr. Michael Marone.
That'd be me, sir. All right, Commissioners, Again, my report is a separate packet, and for those following on live stream, if you download, you can download it separately as the first item of my report, under my report in the agenda. All right, item number 1 in my report, local state of emergency declarations as authorized by the board. Chairman Lockley has signed the COVID-19 local state of emergency declarations for weeks beginning May 4th, 11th, and May 18th.
So moved.
Thank you.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish.
Second.
By Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Burke. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
Actually, the next 3 items, it's just ratifications. We did item 2 already, item 3. On Friday, Governor Census authorized, it's kind of like late now, authorized counties to submit a vacation rental opening plan to the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. Attach a copy of the letter that we sent. Same format as other counties, time of this report. There was no notification, but you guys just heard it from your representative. We're open. I just need that
So
chairman's
moved.
signature ratified.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by
Everybody.
Commissioner
Parrish, yep.
Second by everybody.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You hear that, don't you, Miss Alice?
Item number 4.
Yeah.
Early in the month, U.S. Senator Rick Scott staff advised county staff of a U.S. Senate Commerce Committee discussion on the state of broadband in this COVID-19 environment. Knowing the limitations of broadband in Franklin County and the impending deadline, the chairman signed a letter of support to send Senator Scott, reaffirming the need for reliable and affordable high-speed internet in rural areas, especially during this pandemic when everyone's working and learning from home. I just need ratification of that. Commissioner Jones was instrumental in making sure we got that letter in on time also.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Parrish and Massey. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
Item 5, it was a grant from the sheriff for E911 for renewal of services and support for the system. I just, Chairman Lockley signed that grant agreement. I just need ratification for that.
So moved.
Got a
Second.
motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Parrish and Commissioner Massey. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
We addressed item 6 already. Item 7, at your 30th special meeting, the board approved the FDOT contract for the Alligator Drive multi-use path. However, the required resolution was not included in that request. I need board action to authorize the chairman to sign that resolution.
So move.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Massey, second by Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Burke. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passed unanimous.
As part of this packet is the housing CDBG grant for East Point Fire Victims report from Ms. Belcher. There's one action item, which is an application for a new mobile home for Ms. Lucy Bettinger. She's at 697 Ridge Road. Approval of this home is contingent on the transfer from Ms. Bettinger's current donated home to Mary and Jesse Page. They're also fire victims. Setup costs for the Pages home will be paid from the donated funds managed by Capital Area Community Action Agency.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Massey, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
Also, skip straight, we did, where you guys already addressed item 9. Commissioner Bolt, I did, that white paper you referred to as part of the packet, yes, and everyone is aware of it. There's some pictures they sent last night, I can add those later. Item 10, included in the agenda packet is a list of pending planning and zoning and Board of Adjustment requests. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the board canceled the April and May P&Z and Board of Adjustment meetings. Staff reached out to members of both boards about attending June meetings and received a mixed message. After discussing this issue with Attorney Schuler, he agreed to create a proposed emergency ordinance for your review that would temporarily suspend P&Z and Board of Adjustment meetings and grant your county planner, Mr. Currington, the power and duties of both boards. I need board action to approve the emergency temporary ordinance, missed that word, authorizing the county planner and the power and duties of both P&Z and Board of Adjustment.
Question. Before we vote on that, will it not need to be read into the record what we're doing?
The ordinance?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So I make a motion to approve it first, or what do we do?
No, so the I handed out to the board, this is Michael Schuler, County Attorney. At the beginning of the meeting, I handed out to the board some documents. Item number 1 on that report is an action item for the board to consider an emergency ordinance, essentially suspending for a 3-month period the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Adjustment, and transferring and delegating those duties and powers to Mr. Carrington for the review and recommendation on development applications. The form of the motion, if the board approves of the necessity for approving this emergency ordinance, will be a motion declaring that an emergency exists and that the enactment of this ordinance is necessary. And it would require a 4/5 vote of the board to be effective.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Massey. Discussion. Dealing with this gonna be 3 months, or maybe better. I don't know. We're talking about 3, it could run longer than that. This man got to do this plus his work, so I think we should, if it get to be a lot of work, I think that man should be compensated something.
I'll have that discussion with him, sir.
Yeah, because, you know, we don't know how much extra work it's gonna be. He's taking on 2 more jobs,
Yeah.
really.
Okay, I'll have
Board
that.
of Adjustment and
Planning and zoning.
planning and
Yes, sir.
zoning. Yeah, how much be on the agenda?
So basically, at either your next meeting or the second one next month, he will basically have a report to you of each item, each application, and his recommendations to you, and some of the findings that he may have found, you know, of each single one.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But I will have that discussion with him, sir.
Okay.
Did you just say looking at the magistrate as a amendment to what was going on?
No, sir. Mr. Carrington, your county planner.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what I was
But
saying
his
was-
workload issue.
Yes.
What I was saying, this, according to how long that agenda be,
Yeah.
this could be a lot of time consumption.
Mhm.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, I see
It
what
might
you're
be short agenda, it might be long agenda, you never know.
Okay.
But if he got a long agenda, I think the man should be compensated.
Yes, sir. I follow you now. Okay, thank you.
Just my opinion. Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
Item 11, the library director position has been vacant since January. I've been serving as the interim director. I'm recommending the board to authorize advertising this position at a salary not to exceed $36,000 per year. As board policy, I'll advertise in-house for a couple of weeks. If there are no successful candidates from the in-house advertisement, I will advertise in local newspapers.
So moved.
So just asking the board, I think it's been long enough. We need to go ahead and start looking for one. I will get the wild people that board, we're part of, that association we're part of, they're gonna help me with the job description and getting it down, and then from there I'll advertise in-house, then I'll advertise, if necessary, then I will advertise publicly.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Masters, second by Commissioner Parrish and Commissioner Jones. And any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
Next item, the county's received a request from Miss Amy Hobson. She's the president of SGI Brew Fest organization. They would like to permanently move the event from in front of Patty's Bar to the same location in the center of the island where the annual chili cook-off is held. The change in location would allow for an expanded food court along with additional space for the growing number of visitors and participants. Usually, the event is held in late April, but due to COVID-19, the new event date is Saturday, October 3rd. This event is a primary annual fundraiser for the Franklin Humane Society. To add to it before I go for the motion, I did present it to Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Jones spoke to the fire chief that basically is in charge of the annual chili cook-off. And you correct me if I'm wrong, sir, he had no problem with it.
Sheriff Department didn't either.
And neither the Sheriff Department, so we've checked on it. I don't see anybody having a problem with it, so as staff, I don't at the moment. And so, as a board to authorize the change in location for the event.
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Perry. Discussion. That ain't gonna be too early, eat chili when it's cold.
Oh, no, but this is the Brew Fest. No, you
Brew
mean,
Fest.
yeah, you
Oh.
mean drink.
You're
You're
the
drinking
hound dogs.
adult beverages, sir,
Oh,
not even
oh.
chili.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it matters if it's cold.
I
We
see
like
that
it.
chili
Yeah.
up there, that
They're
throws
using
me
the
off.
same
Yeah, they're
area.
on the same location, just at a different time. So they-
Sprite
they
and
won't-
Coke, Sprite and Coke.
There you go.
Yeah, with a little ice in it.
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimous.
The other three items are information items. I have your TDC report. That's included in your packet. Don't, and Mr. Solomon said to me to relay to the board, do not be fooled by those numbers. That's a very old report. And so by the time next month comes around, he'll have more accurate numbers and I'll let him come and bring the bad news to you in person.
Our numbers run the same as Ms. Griffin was relaying to the board earlier. It's a couple of months behind because it depends on numbers coming back from Department of Revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, they were looking extremely good, but who knows what they're about to look like, so.
Yep. The next.
They fix the pickup.
What?
As of this afternoon, I'm just. Item 14 is your community rating system progress report. I just have to have that in the board minutes that Miss Amy, Miss Kelly Ham Kelly, that she did actually submit that. So I needed to put that in. She actually should have been there a couple of meetings ago. And finally, this afternoon, Carabel is having their CRA meeting. They sent me a notice. I wanted to make sure you guys got a copy of that notice. And if I could, can we go back to the P&Z thing with Mark? I have a note I want to ask you. So, I've been paying, you know, a few months ago, long before this started, you guys had approved the increase in the fees, permit fees.
Right.
But then we had one of my meetings that asked you guys to authorize Attorney Schuler to proceed with ordinance that would penalize people that was doing work without permits. And, and he's working on that. But I would like you to, I've asked him if he would put a pause on that and ask you guys to kind of agree with me in that. Because I'm thinking with the new fees schedule that we have, I think if we charge them double of the new fees, that alone hurts. So what I'm saying, I'm not sure yet if we actually need a permit to go, an ordinance to go further with more additional penalties and fines or whatever. Next one, we're gonna have a report to you guys.
Back up, start over. I'm missing what you're saying.
I'm sorry, remember I came to the board
I
a
know
while
the
back?
fees went up. I
Yes.
got that. What's that got to do with people doing work without a permit?
Well, because at the time, when I came to you about that problem, our fees were so low at that time that it really didn't hurt for them to do unpermitted work. And so that's why I asked the board to authorize Attorney Schuler to create a separate ordinance that would have other penalties along with that.
Commissioner Parrish, your current ordinance provides a double permit fee as the only penalty for people who commence construction or development without a permit.
That's correct.
At Mike's request, the board had directed me to create a new ordinance increasing the penalties beyond the double permit fee. And what he came to me, I guess it was last week, and said, we think with the new permit
the
fee
double
schedule,
permit
the
Yeah.
double permit fee may be a
Those fees are so
sufficient
high now.
penalty because it's so high now.
Yeah.
And I told him that's fine. Waiting to see how that plays out factually is okay, but I've got a direction from the board to create an ordinance. So I just wanted a record where the board was okay with me pausing action on that particular issue while they wait to see how this increased fee structure, permit fee structure works out in terms of penalizing people who do work without a development permit.
Well, Michael, how much the increase in the fee will be?
I'm going to bring that. It depends on what you're building, sir. So it's
Okay.
hard for me to answer. But trust me, we did Amy did a quick little study here the other day, and we've collected at least twice as much, if not more, for the same time period that she did the study for, since the new fees came in effect. So it's really working out well. And I will say, for the most part, the contractors are accustomed to it in other counties, so they're not really complaining. You have one or two, but you always will have one or two. But for the most part, they're like, yeah, you got, what took you guys so long, basically, is the attitude from some.
We're always a week behind.
Well, I'll tell you what.
You just don't want to help me, do you? All right.
I'll tell you what, if you see where that's not
Yes.
taken care of, then come back with us and.
Yes,
and we'll do
I will.
something.
I will continue with, ask you guys, ask Attorney Schuler to
That's
continue.
all right with the board?
Yes, I didn't really need a motion. I just wanted to make sure we all agreed with me asking Attorney Schuler to put a pause there on that. He too has enough on his plate, so anything that I could take off is really helpful.
Okay.
Okay,
And that's the end of my report, Commissioners.
Anybody else got anything for Mr. Marone? Keep up the good work.
And
Next on,
I was gonna thank Royce, but I guess I'll do it at the end of the meeting, because so far it's so good. I have Courtney in the back watching, and it's working out really well.
next on the agenda will be the county attorney.
Mr. Chairman, as I referred to earlier, I gave a report to the board this morning. There's no further action items, but I need to get into the record, just for the record purposes, some letters. The first letter is dated April 20th, or April 1st, 2020. This is from the law firm of Clark Partington. They're representing the Dollar General store concerning the Landmark Village development. They've sent me a letter invoking mediation procedures. There's also, as an item 2A, I forgot to put into the written report, but there's an item 2A, which is a letter from me dated April 14th, 2020, that I'm required to send out by statute to the neighbors surrounding the Dollar General proposal site. I need to get that into the record. I have received from Landmark Village 2 letters responsive to the letter that I sent out dated April the 14th. Those are going into the record. One is from Miss Patricia Thunderberg, and the other is from Mr. and Mrs. Bob and Janie Schaefer. And then the final letter going into the record is a letter from me dated May the 11th to 2 individuals on St. George Island. There apparently is some issue regarding the use of a public beach access point over there on, I guess it's East Gorey. And so the letter basically said, you know, the county's not getting involved in whatever may be going on with the neighbors, but we just want everybody to understand that the county considers those public beach access points. And with that, I have nothing further for the board, unless the board has any questions for me.
Anybody got anything else for Mr. Schuler? Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next on the agenda be commissioner comment, in which I got one or two. And my first day, I want to congratulate all our young men and women who completed the seniors of Franklin County. Sorry y'all had to be, this year had to be kind of different in the way they graduate, but we as the board are proud of y'all. Next will be, if y'all want to tune in, we got that message from Representative Shoke that the vacation rentals will be open, and he'll have some more information on our website. I don't know.
On DBPR's website here shortly. I'll be checking it right after lunch.
Yeah,
but we're open.
He'll have that, and Micah will put it
on our website.
On our website. Let y'all know what's going on. But remember, the COVID is still out there, and we want y'all to be careful, because it's still bad. But we know y'all got to go to work, and y'all just do what you got to do and keep Franklin County safe. Any more commissioner comments?
I think you pretty much summed it up.
Okay. With all that, meeting adjourned.
Good job, Royce.
I was gonna say the same thing, but you took it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.